You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Well, there's a look at Everbank Stadium. You better bring your ponchos on Sunday. It's just not going to stop. I don't want to start every show with the rain, but it's going to sound like Doug. I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Stop raining. My goodness, this is annoying. You know, I was thinking today when I got into the car. Actually, I thought about it yesterday, too, when I got into the car. I think every time except for one time I can remember in the last week when I have left the station in my vehicle or arrived at the station in my vehicle, and it's been a lot. Like, I go in and out of the building quite a bit. It's been raining to some degree every time. I've done that the last 7 days, 8 days now. This is Wednesday, so it started last Tuesday. It's done that every time, except for on one occasion that I could remember it was like sunny out, and it didn't do it. And my guess is it probably rained on the back end of that wherever I was going. I mean, every time you get in the car, every time you go drive anywhere here in Jacksonville, it's raining the last week. It's unbelievable to have this much rain, like on a steady basis for 8 days. This isn't just your afternoon thunderstorm in Florida, Austin Lane. I'm coming out to the desert. I'm sick of this crap.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, I haven't seen rain since I've been here, so you are more than welcome to come out here. I think it really says a lot about the state of the franchise, the Jacksonville Jaguars, when we start off with weather.
Well, I mean, it's what we have. I mean, it's just the most recent thing.
It's
reached the point of annoying.
No, I can't imagine, man. Because like I said, I haven't seen a raindrop since I've been here. And that's kind of part of living in the desert and everything. Is it going to rain? Do you think on Sunday? Is that kind of the talks right now? Could be kind of a sloppy game.
Well, I don't know if it'll be that sloppy, and I don't know how the grounds crew's doing with all of it. I mean, we have not had, I don't think, at least the dumping of rain in terms of inches of rain like last week on a couple of days. Now, it's still been steady enough, and of course, that means the ground's saturated, all the rest. But I don't think it's like front to back, like just a rain day on Sunday. But I would say at this point, I would bet my life on it that it's going to rain. On Sunday at some point. And I think what I heard Burish say last night was it looks like we've got some drier weather coming in next week. Now, there's another factor here, and a selfish one at that. I've got my annual Action Sports Jax Stream 18 golf tournament on Monday. And we're getting to the point where, first of all, like, you kind of know it's going to be cart path only. And cart path only is fine. You get your steps in at least, but it's not the greatest. If you can avoid cart path only, especially in a tournament, it's way better. And so what that means, basically, if you don't know golf, I mean, like, you could have your ball on the right side of the fairway, but the cart path's on the left side. That means it takes longer to go do it, which means it takes longer to play. You don't really know your true distance, all those things. But I think it's going to probably be a sloppy, it's got to be a lot of moisture on the golf course. I was just talking to the guys over there at Southampton. And I was like, are we going to get this in? Because there actually was a tournament years back at Sawgrass Country Club where it rained 11 inches in a 3-day span prior to the tournament, and we moved it. We're like, we got to make the call and move it. And I think we have – I don't know if that was the only time we moved it, but I want to say we might have moved one more over the last decade because of tropical storm or hurricane. And it works out fine, to be honest with you. The hay's in the barn, man, working on the tournament, so that part's cool. You just hope people who have designated that day to go be a part of the day, now they might have to move that, and can they get out of work and all that stuff. But yeah, as of now, the golf tournament's on. I think, given the way this pattern looks, we're going to play on Monday, which will still have a great day, and I bet it will be sunny. But I also think it's going to. You better bring your good spikes, the weatherproof spikes, to the golf course and you won't get a lot of roll on Monday. Hey, yeah, the longest drive will not have 50 yards of roll to it, is my guess at Southampton on Monday. So. Those are my complaints early on a Monday. You haven't been up long enough to even complain about anything, most likely, in your day.
No, really haven't. This is the day that I'm actually moving out of the Airbnb and then moving into the Palms for an extended stay. So hoping for a quick move and everything before training. But yeah, Nothing to really complain about today, Brett. It's been a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. I'm not even sure if clouds really exist here in Las Vegas. But I'm gonna be honest, haven't really seen one yet. So I'm still waiting to see my first cloud, let alone my first raindrop here. But and also my first betting kiosk as well that I can actually use, because I still haven't placed a bet yet. But that could all change Thursday night. We shall see.
I'm kind of interested in your day. I think about this, and then I never really ask it. And then I'm like, I'm not going to. He might be working on it. I'm not even going to text him. But I'm like genuinely interested in your day right now. Like you're getting up early, which we appreciate, by the way, for joining us. But you're kind of an early guy anyway, so this isn't that much out of the realm for you.
Correct. Yeah. So basically, get up this is all, Las Vegas time, obviously. I'll get up around 6 o'clock, just kind of get moving around a little bit, move the body around, get all the soreness out, whether it's foam rolling. Then I'll start the show here at 7. Right after the show, depending on what day it is, then I'll go quick rush to training, train for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Do that, then kind of have a cool down, stretch out a little bit, come back, relax for about maybe 30, 40 minutes. And then I go train again at the UFC PI. So at the PI, they have obviously weights, and they have all the cardio equipment that you need. And then they also have like bags and octagons to go train in as well. So depending on the day, either I'll do my strength and conditioning, or I'll do some extra skills work. And I'll do that for around an hour, hour and a half or so. Have another cool down, get my meals from the PI, come back here. So I'll probably be back here around 4 or 5, talk to little man quick, kind of unwind. And literally I'm in bed by 8. And I try to get my eyes closed and sleeping by 9:30.
Wow, that's pretty good. I can't do that. I don't think my body allowed me to go to bed at 8. Or well, you're not going to bed at 8, but you're going to bed at 9:30. So you're getting you're getting some good sleep. So that's good. Now, are you still lugging around the urn out there, or you got different kind of meal plan?
No, so we have all the waters that we can handle from the PI, but I still have my urn. Just because that's my it's 64 ounces, Brent, and especially out here in the desert where you don't sweat as much, but it definitely kind of zaps the moisture out of you, if you will. I've been staying in business with a bunch of lotion because my skin's gotten pretty dry, and chapstick and all that. But no, the urn is still around. The urn is still making its appearance, and it is serving me good in this dry, warm climate.
Robert H. says, welcome to Vegas, Austin. Born and raised here, so I got you if you need recommendations. It doesn't sound like Austin's really doing a lot in terms of recommendations, by the way. It looks like he's on a pretty regimented schedule. But that's fascinating. Yeah. People will say anywhere you live, right? Especially here in Jacksonville. If you were born and raised in Jacksonville, which it doesn't seem like anybody is, but there are a lot of you, I get it. But if you're born and raised in Jacksonville, you have seen this place change, right? And we think it's going to even go under a bunch more change. Heck, I've seen it change. I've been here since 2008, and I've seen it change. So you really see some of the cities change more than others. Vegas, if you were born in Vegas, holy cow, has that place changed? I've never even been, but I just got to believe that place has changed in spades. Maybe changed more than any other American city, Austin.
I mean, maybe, Brent, but then we see the St. John's Town Center, and it's has anything been more developed in the St. John's Town Center with its 100 chain restaurants? So I'm not sure. I think it's a horse apiece between, Vegas in the middle of the desert, almost being this oasis, and then the St. John's Town Center, which, it was a mall and a cheesecake factory and a bunch of trees that has now turned into every restaurant that you can imagine.
Well, I would say, by the way, on the list of changed cities in the last 25 years, Jacksonville's probably not even on that list from an outside perspective, but getting there. Charlotte has certainly been on that list. Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. But I do have to think Vegas got to be right up there. I mean, that my dad used to go, he told me once, I think he went to Vegas one time. And I just remember this story. And this was way back. He was telling me this story. So I mean, I would say he probably had gone in the 80s, like something like with work. And what he basically said to get you in the casino at the times and stuff like that, they gave you stuff. Like basically you could go to this crazy buffet meal in Vegas for like $10. Like, I mean, you're talking like lobster and shrimp and all this stuff, you know, like all these items now that would probably be $100 to go to that buffet, right? And he said it was the cheapest to go because really, you know, same time, it's kind of reason why they give you drinks if you're gambling at a casino, you know, because they want you there. They want you sitting down. So you get the reference to it. But even that has changed. So they used to say, hey, if you don't gamble a ton going to Vegas, it's actually like a cheap place to go visit because the hotels are cheap and the food's cheap.
Yeah. So there's an all-you-can-eat sushi spot that I'm staying at the Palms, and it's right next to the Palms that I'll be going to a lot. And it's like high-quality gourmet sushi, and it's only like $30 a pop. But they also have like exotic, like different foods that they have a deal where you can try it once. So like the last time I was there, I had sea urchin, like sea urchin and rice. Brent, you ever had sea urchin?
I have not.
I have.
Who's pushing the buttons today?
Kim's Corner. She's had it.
Kim Corner. Have you ever had sea urchin before?
Multiple times.
Okay. Wow. So you actually like it?
Yeah. You have to get the good stuff.
Wow.
Though. Like, it has to be really fresh.
Okay. Maybe this wasn't like the freshest because imagine taking like 25 pennies and putting them in your mouth at the same time and just kind of like swishing them around. And that's what the taste of sea urchin tasted like to me. So like, you know, and it's one of those things like where the lady that brought it out was kind of watching me take it. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. And I'm just trying to like down it as quickly as possible, not to offend anybody. But yeah, sea urchin, not so much. It may have not been fresh, but it tasted like a bunch of pennies.
Have you? I don't even know how to spell sea urchin. Is it like URCHENT? Is that how you spell that?
URCHIN.
I'm going to say URCHIN.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, I'm going to ask everybody.
Tea in it. Come on.
Oh,
or
there's no tea?
You could call it uni.
Sea urchin?
There we go.
Like URCHIN? Oh, why did I think it was
there's no tea in it. It's not urchin.
What the heck is sea urchin?
Brent, can we get a little class on the show, please?
I don't have any of that. Now I want to try it. That's crazy that you said it tastes like pennies and Kim said it's good.
I had it once where it was bad and it tasted like a dirty aquarium would smell.
Yeah. That must have been what I had.
You guys are turning me on to sea urchin. I tell you what, can't wait to have this for lunch.
Batch, Kim.
It was a bad batch.
Maybe it was just one of those bad gene pools, you know, just a bad sea urchin family.
Tried my first beef tartare in Vegas. Wasn't a fan.
Oh, I like beef tartare.
Mike,
I've had that before.
Mike Mitchell, Mr. Whiteboard, I'm impressed that Brent could spell urchin. No, really, I couldn't.
Couldn't go.
So you missed the first part where I couldn't, Mike.
Dude put a T in it.
I did. I thought it was urchin.
Maybe he was thinking about street urchins.
I'm so not classy. Sea urchin. It doesn't sound like a food. It sounds like something out of like a Disney movie. Like that's
yeah.
All right, let's talk some ball. We got a Wednesday. It'll be interesting to see what Doug Peterson says today, if anything, any kind of reaction. Just to put a bow on all the stuff of yesterday, last couple of days, where honestly, I didn't even see a lot of sometimes other folks in town, other shows, other times of day, other media members, other from articles. I didn't catch a lot, and that's probably on me. I don't even know if the yesterday show topic was really a topic around Jacksonville the last couple of days as much as we made it a topic. And I don't think we were wrong to make it a topic, Austin. Like, I think it's a big I think it was a big deal coming off Monday, what Doug said. What I don't know, and the reason I bring it up like that, is because if we're like the only ones to make it a bit of a topic and dwell on it or whatever else, then did it even infiltrate the locker room, right? Was it something that everybody had their ears on and people are looking at? And so I wonder if it's going to be a topic today at all when they get back in the building. something internally they even address, or just something that's kind of buzzing as an underbelly, or something that even the media will even try to, poke questions about today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a topic, Brent, because I saw a lot of quality, and not to get too political, but I saw a lot of quality, Harris, Trump
I did see
debate
that.
memes that to turn into Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence memes last night. I saw a bunch of them, and that really made my night last night. So yeah, I think it definitely is a talking point. Now, whether or not it's a big deal in the locker room, like I said, I think players these days more than ever have their eyes and ears to the ground of what's going on in social media. I mean, we talked about on Monday Christian Kirk, and we didn't really talk about it, but Christian Kirk said something regarding Parker Washington. Where a fan said, replace Christian Kirk with Parker Washington. Christian Kirk comes out and says, keep that same energy. And then I think he ends up deleting that tweet. Players are super self-aware, and I'm not saying it's the best thing, because I think it's a lot of energy that gets, wasted that you don't have to worry about, because in the end of the day, a lot of social media, Brent, it's not even real. But I think when you have your head coach come out and say those comments, about the defense and be coached up a little more, yeah, like the last thing you want to create is a civil war between the offense and defense in a locker room. And generally, it doesn't happen all the time, but generally you're going to either have your offense be, your identity, or your defense. I mean, there's a couple of teams out there that play good offense and defense, right? And sometimes the other's got to pick, the other one up. But I think when you talk about week one, where you're still trying to learn everybody and you're still trying to get acclimated to what you have as a team, to start things off week one with that, it just wasn't necessary. This would have been one thing if we're talking about playing Baltimore last year, when Baltimore kind of ran the ball a little bit and we're like, okay, wow. I mean, it has to be coached up better. Or we talk about Tennessee, the last game of the season, couldn't stop Derrick Henry, couldn't stop Tajay Spears. Okay, that has to be coached up better. We have to do a better job going forward. I get all that. After the first game where you hold one of the most explosive offenses to 20 points, I just didn't think it was warranted. So I'm very curious to see when does Ryan Nielsen, Brent, get in front of the media?
He goes on Thursday. So that's the other part of this, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's something that could linger till Thursday if it is a big deal and if it is a lingering type of topic. And what I mean by this, and I don't want to assume everybody kind of gets what I'm saying here, but it's a little bit like the play calling, right? It's like the play calling has been a 6-7 month topic, and you can tell internally Doug doesn't feel like this is that big a topic. And with all due respect to everybody here in Jacksonville and from a media standpoint, I don't feel like sometimes NFL buildings feel like it's a big topic until the national people are talking about it. And so while we've talked about it a lot, I think Doug's like, whatever, we can handle that. Like, it's not that they know we've been talking about it, but I think they are just like, it's fine, we can handle it over here. If everybody's going to start talking about it on First Take and other places like that, that's where it starts to be like louder in their ears. That's what's on in their buildings, those national shows. They should have our show on, but it's on is the national shows. So that's what I'm talking about. Is it like the play calling thing in Jacksonville where, to be honest with you, the play calling, Austin, has not been an issue at all with the players. Like, it's not been a question that's even really been presented to the players very often, other than I think Trevor on a couple of occasions, because it's really a Doug thing. It's a Doug in the media kind of thing, right? It's like, okay, are you going to tell us or what? So it has not actually, unless they go put a stinker out there on Tuesday, then it becomes a player thing as well. Like, hey, should they make a change, or is Doug doing this right? Then I think you can go to the players and ask about it. So I guess that's the context I'm asking this question. Is this hey, Ryan Nielsen's probably going to address it on Thursday because Doug brought it up and somebody's going to ask about it? Or is this something that, in the locker room this afternoon, people are asking, hey, do you take offense to that? I mean, that was a pretty good effort. And your coach said, you got to coach that. But see, I don't know if it's a player thing, Austin. Like, I don't even know if I would ask you if you were playing about this question, because he said it was all about coaching. So it might just be a Ryan Nielsen question tomorrow. And that's it.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing about it too, Brent. Whether it's going to be a Ryan Nielsen question, a player's question, um, you have a feeling you get kind of the same answer. And it's like, yeah, we have to do a little better here. Like the last thing, like
True.
if you ask Ryan Nielsen, what'd you think of Doug Peterson's comments? I think Ryan Nielsen's going to come out and say, well, it really hurt my feelings, and I wish you would have consulted me a little bit first. Like, I don't think Ryan Nielsen is cut from that cloth. I think Ryan Nielsen, will call it criticism, call it critiques, but he'll take that and he'll be like, yeah, I think we can do a better job here and move on, because he understands the inner workings of a locker room and the coach's room. So, like, I don't expect it being a big deal, just because I think when Ryan Nielsen gets asked, which he should be asked, I think any media, regardless of state, city, would ask him the question. I think he's going to brush it off and say we're on to Cleveland. And I think any other player too isn't going to dwell on that. We're always taught to play the next play, focus on the next team. I do think it's going to be an after story by the time it hits Thursday, but I still think that there is a little conversation in the locker room right when right when Doug Peterson had those comments. Now, this is the beauty of the NFL, Brent. It's a week by week basis. So maybe you come out against Cleveland, whose offense right now seems to be a little, struggling with Deshaun Watson, and he's going through a lot right now, more allegations. So I'm sure a lot more stress on his plate. Say you go against Cleveland Browns at home, a game you're probably supposed to win, and you have a good showing, then it's an afterthought. Then we don't even talk about it anymore for the entire year, I feel like.
Yeah, on to Buffalo.
They're on to Buffalo, exactly. But if this, if it's more of the same, and maybe they have a rough go around with the Cleveland Browns, which I can't foresee happening, but say this happens, and maybe the defense is porous. Well, then what does Doug Peterson say after that? So it's just, to me, it's not a big deal. Like I always say, Brent, it's not a big deal until it's a big deal. And while right now, going into week 2, we can sit here and say, okay, we're on to Cleveland, it's all good. I'm not going to forget of a little bit of a snowball that started because of a Doug Peterson comment about Ryan Nielsen. Now, it's just a pebble. It's a small ice chunk, let's just say. But when you have those things, Brent, you leave those open to keep rolling, to keep festering, to keep growing and become a bigger problem. So I'm just going to table it and be like, all right, we'll see what happens this week, but I'm not going to forget that it's there.
Yeah, that's fair, and I don't know if any of us will. I think there's a little bit of a danger zone this week in all of this kind of conversation, and maybe this makes the comments and the underbelly of it all worse. And the fact is this: the Browns, coming off week 1, it's hard to say they're good, right? They have a good roster overall, but it's hard to say they're good. They're obviously there's things going on with their offense, from an offensive line, but to Deshaun Watson. But their defense, Austin, is very good. Like, it's legitimately good. It was the number 1 passing defense in the National Football League a year ago. They are front to back legitimate, with maybe the best defensive player in the NFL, quite frankly, in Myles Garrett. So what's scary about this is that, this is one of those games where you might have to win 20-16 because you might be playing the number 1 defense in the National Football League. But if you do that on the heels of 17 points, now it feels like your offense still stinks and this thing's bubbling and everything else. But our expectations maybe in this game shouldn't be to score 30 points. Our expectations against Miami was score 27 or 30 points, but maybe not against the Cleveland Browns. And so, and listen, if you've followed me at all in town, I don't try to get too dramatic like this, and from a negative standpoint especially. More sunshine and rainbows here, even on these rainy days. But I feel right now on Wednesday, going into this Browns week, that this week is so big from a narrative standpoint and everything you just said, Austin. I think they need to get a win. And even if they get a win, we might still not be, clapping about their offense. But if they lose, I feel like this could go to 8 or 9 on the panic scale in a hurry in Jacksonville, which has never been my MO. I've never thought, it's a long season. Doug's even shown after 1-2, they came out of it last year. After 3-7, they came out of it the year prior. He has shown the ability to do that with his football team. But based on expectation, shod comments, the offseason, the collapse of last year, the collapse of Sunday, the comments of Monday, the offense kind of just staying too stagnant over the last year and a half and change, I think this could hit a level of uh-oh in a hurry in Jacksonville, really more than even some of those bad teams I've covered in Jacksonville.
No, you aren't wrong, Brent, because I think when we broke down the first 4 games, and it's kind of a little bit of a murderer's row in terms of talented NFL teams, at least on paper, when we gave our predictions. And I think we all agreed that, out of the Dolphins, out of the Browns, out of the Bills, out of the Texans for those first 4, the Browns game has to be the game that you at least have to win. Now if you go 2-2, fantastic. I think fans would be happy with that. But you got to beat the Browns here. And I'm going to be honest, it's just 1 week, right? We talk about the first week of football is not necessarily the team that you think they are, right? Like, don't let the Bengals fool you. They're still a good team. Don't let the Patriots fool you. I think they still have a ways to go, right? So, let's not put all our eggs in the week 1 basket. But when you see the Cleveland Browns and how they operate, they do have a quarterback problem right now. And this just wasn't, this wasn't in one game this year. This stemmed from last year as well. And once a quarterback shows you who he truly is, it's kind of hard to get those preconceived notions out of your head. Talking to you, Daniel Jones. Brent, sorry, but talking to you, Daniel Jones. Talking to you, Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a team now with the Cleveland Browns, at least, on defense. Yeah, they have some great players on paper. On offense, it's going to be running the football. They don't have Nick Chubb. It's going to be the Jerome Ford show, and he did okay in his first game against the Cowboys. Now, keep in mind, the Cowboys' defense was just all over the place. But I see Micah Parsons have a big day. I see their pass rushing having a big day. And I look at Jacksonville and say, well, why can't Jacksonville do that? Why can't Jacksonville do that at home? So I think this is a tailor-made matchup for the Jaguars to win. Because if they stop the run, they force Deshaun into passing and bad decisions, I think they can make plays. Now, Tyson Campbell's out, right? So that's going to be a big thing going forward. Who's going to step up for him? And granted, every team's going to have injuries, right? Every team's got to replace their players. Now, I wish it wasn't the star cornerback that just got paid that we have to replace. I wish it was a different position, but here we are. But long story short, Brent, the Jaguars should win this game on Sunday.
Yeah, listen, I think this is set up for the Jaguars to win, but it's also set up for disaster if they don't. And it has a little bit of that Houston Texans game feel to it last year, where it's coming into it, you're like, I mean, they were 9.5-point favorites. Now, they are not that much of a favorite over the Browns. There's not looking ahead and all that, and Houston stinks. Houston had lost 2 games, I think it was, going into that game last year, if I've got the time frame correct, and then they come in and beat Jacksonville and beat them 37-17. Remember, it wasn't even that close because of all the special teams blunders. So we know this can happen. We know anything can happen. The loss to Tennessee at the end of last year, the Jags beating Indianapolis a couple of years ago at the end of 21. I mean, we're not dumb enough to just pencil it in as a win, especially of all places in Jacksonville over the years. But it's just set the table for a W, but it's also set the table for, Watson, all of a sudden he got right against the Jags, or, the offensive line, well, they figured out against the Jags, or, hey, Jags still can't win at home, because remember, the Jags didn't win at home last year, and that's the reason they missed the playoffs, quite frankly, is they could not win enough games at home. So I don't play that very often in here. I have not. I'm more... Listen, you go, first of all, the NFL, anything can happen. I get it. Even if they were to be 1-3 after the first 4, I probably wouldn't panic because of the next 3-game stretch. But it's not what you want to do. Not with the hype, not with the team you have, not with the comments and the underbelly stories that we have. I just, again, I go to that word toxicity now. And Robert says, lost 6 out of 7. You don't want to make it 7 out of 8. You don't want to make it 7 out of 8. In the way that it would look and feel on Sunday night into Monday, Jags go win this game. That it's a big, big game to get this thing on track and do all the things that Austin said earlier. Hey, okay, on to Buffalo now. Now you go win 1 out of the next 2, and you feel better about yourself going in that month of October. So It's a massive game early, which all of them are. All of them can do this. All of them change the storylines. It's the world we live in. It's a great reality show. It's what makes it fun for all of us to go back and forth on it. It's what makes it high pressure for those guys in a building, quite frankly, to go out and get it done. But there's a lot on this one now, and the Jags need their leaders to step up and make plays, Austin.
But yeah, absolutely. Two things. First of all, because obviously our slogan, on the Brent Austen Show, the entire offseason, it's just been, it just feels different. It just feels different, right? Well, you have an opportunity now to make this feel different, because the way the script has been written in the past, this is supposed to be a game that you win. Cleveland comes in here, the offense is stagnant, the Jaguars can't score, there's some blunders, and the Browns squeak by with the win. We've seen this story a lot, it seems like, as people who cover the Jaguars. I think Jaguars fans can attest to this. So this is the opportunity to be like, okay, is it going to be more of the same? And it's just going to be, it's always the Jaguars where you're supposed to win this game. The team comes in here and somehow you find a way to lose it. Or do you turn everything around? Your offense clicks, your defense plays well, and you get a great team win against a team that you're probably supposed to beat. That's why I think it's going to be an important game. I thought Robert brought up a great point here. Lost 6 of the 7 last. Lost 6 out of the last 7. This team needs to learn how to win again. Yeah, I agree. But let me ask you this, Brent. And I'm not trying to be a smart ass here. I'm telling the truth. Does this team know how to lose properly? And when I say that, when you lose, obviously if you go on a losing streak, then maybe you make adjustments, right? Maybe things at practice, maybe teaching the philosophies differently, getting through to your players. There's a laundry list of things that you can do to, turn things around a little bit. We've seen a snowball, and it hasn't really stopped since last season. Is this team, do you think, learning from its losses, or is it just it's stuck, it's stagnant, and they just need a feel right win against the team that they're supposed to beat?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand it. And lose. Do you know how to lose in? There's different ways, right? Like the 2017 team that lost in 2018 didn't know how to lose, right? Because it just snowballed into 9 straight losses. But a lot of that was personality driven, and I would say ego and kind of me. This team doesn't have that. Now, does it have to learn to make a clutch play? Yeah. But
I'm going to make an argument here and say Doug Peterson, Connell's defensive coordinator, isn't showing that you know how to lose right.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know the answer. I think this is where I do separate the 2 years, Austin. I think we have to, and I understand there's enough of people, and there's going to be a lot of questions about last year. The players hate, by the way, this like last year because they're odd. I mean, they have a 24-hour rule. When we get in there Wednesday, today, they're done with Sunday's game. You know it. You lived it. And that's a weird, we don't, but they do. And they're off that game. They really are. They genuinely are. So they're really off last year. But they do get a lot of questions from the media about last year, how does it compare and everything else. And now as you stack this streak, you're going to get that, much like you could play off the end of 22 in a winning way in the first part of 23 when you had won 15 out of 20 games or whatever it was. So I'm not saying it's unfair. I'm just saying it's a differentiator for them internally. I think there's a little bit of a barrier there. And this is where I would side with the players in the organization on, hey, we brought Armstead, Darby, Duvernay, Davis, Morse in here to not go 1-5 down the stretch. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now and say, hey, those guys in that locker room, along with the core group of leaders that experienced that last year, are going to bow up and have a good response to getting punched in the gut on Sunday and bounce back. That, again, it feels different, Austin. It's not only should it feel different, it better be different. That's what they spent the entire offseason trying to fix, is to not allow the losing streak from last year to continue and a new losing streak to start here in 2024.
Yeah, it's just, it's weird though, Brent, and I get what you're saying here. You're on to the next one, and I agree with you. That's the way as football players we're always programmed. You play the next play. But we've also heard Doug Peterson talk a lot about how, that Titans game, he still thinks about it, right? It almost seems like that Titans game still haunts him a little bit. And maybe he has used that as a little bit of extra motivation to add a chip on this team's shoulder, because we've talked about it a bunch on this show. I mean, the Houston Texans right now are the toast of the AFC South, and the Jaguars are almost a little bit of an underdog, which I like the Jaguars in that underdog role. But how much of that underdog role is now cemented on last season of trying to get that chip on your shoulder, and how much of it has to be, all right, we got to focus on the now. We can't worry about what happened in Tennessee. That was last year. Like, I wonder what that balance is, because just from, Doug Peterson's press conferences in the offseason, he did share that was a big talking point.
Yeah.
As from his coaching, is just being like, yeah, we can't have that again. That Tennessee game hurt us. So I wonder how much is focused on the past just to get that chip on your shoulder, and how much is actually in that locker room is focused on the present of getting ready for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think it's fair. That's a fair point. YB400 says, yeah, we know how to lose real good. We have to have that killer instinct. And that's the edge, right? That's the fine line of the NFL. If Etienne, did Etienne fumble because he doesn't have a killer instinct? I don't think so. I think he fumbled because it was just an inopportune time to fumble, and sports suck sometimes. That's just the way it goes. But we don't ask that question at all if he gets in the end zone yard and a half, half a second later, and not fumbles. That's the edge you live on in the NFL. And I'm not making an excuse for him or them or anybody. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. Like it or not, that's why this business that they're in is unbelievably great and unbelievably disappointing all at the same time. And that's why we're all locked into it, I think, because of almost like that question alone. It changes the entire narrative based on a yard and a half of holding on to the football. And by the way, everybody down in Miami talking about think about the storylines in Miami this week. If the Jaguars go in there, and what I think would have happened is they win 30-13 or 30-10. Honestly, I think the game was over. So what are the storylines down there? What are the Tua fans thinking down there after that first half? What are they thinking about Tyreek Hill in that whole situation? And I know that's not, the way this has turned out, it's not a Tyreek Hill story, but it might be totally different about the way they feel about it. But that's the razor's edge of the NFL, quite frankly. And that's what we're living on right here in Jacksonville. Right now, we lived on that for the last 6 weeks last year. I said it yesterday. There are 4 games in that stretch. They won 1. They should have won 3 others, quite frankly. Plays were there to be made, and they should have won those games, and they didn't. So pretty wild. We got to take a break. We're way late on it, but I do want to bring up Hamby's Burner. Damn product meeting. Got to go, fellas. Be back soon. Hold it down. All right. I don't know what you're making, but hopefully make a W somewhere in there. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we appreciate you hanging out at work, at home, wherever you are. You can do it every day, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network on the Brent Austen Show. And we're locked in on September 15th, the home opener against the Browns. Don't look at the rest of it, all right? Just don't look at the rest of it. 1 week at a time around here. Put the blinders on. I'll coach you up a little bit through this here as week 2. Keep the panic button far away. We'll be right back. Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one-card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One-card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
When I say it means something to me, gentlemen, it means something to me.
High school football is back, and it's bigger than ever. Welcome to the Friday Night Zone Blitz.
It is bigger than a game.
Watch the biggest games each week live as the action unfolds with instant reaction and analysis from our Hall of Famer, Kevin Sullivan. It starts with live look-ins at the top matchups, including our Jaguars Prep Whataburger Game of the Week, and that is just the beginning of 4 straight hours of coverage. From 8 to 10:30, the Friday Night Zone Blitz is streaming on our Action News Jax app and online. At 10:30, the Friday Night Blitz you know and love. A half hour of highlights from around the area. 11 o'clock, we shine the spotlight on the bands that pump up the crowd. 11:15, it's time to blitz through the highlights online and on air. Then 11:35, back to the stream to break down the night's results with a reaction from local coaches. 4 straight hours of high school football on the Friday Night Zone Blitz. Only on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know, I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so I feel like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at NimnichtBuickGMC.com, and while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC, we are professional grade.
It's hard to put a price on comfort, especially when you use that comfort on a daily basis. But if we're going to put a price on it, how does the lowest price guaranteed sound? Furniture Source is going to have the biggest brands, whether it's Ashley, Casper, or Tempur-Pedic, and once again, it's going to be the guaranteed lowest price in Jacksonville. Right now, my friends at Furniture Source are going to give you the ultimate hookup because all month long, they're making their inventory wholesale price. Check out their markdowns up to 50% off. And remember, since it's Furniture Source, you're getting the guaranteed lowest prices in Florida or your money back. Don't have the cash on you right now? It's no worry. Shop endless options to suit your style and budget and enjoy 36 months off with no interest financing. Why use your money when you can use theirs? Whether it's beds, couches, tables, or chairs, Furniture Source is going to have exactly what you're looking for. Shop the lowest prices in Jacksonville guaranteed. Find the location nearest you at FurnitureSourceJax.com.
It's a new logo, new branding. With Bold City Heating and Air, it's an old school approach. One of the few locally owned and operated air conditioning businesses left in Jacksonville. It's hot, Florida in the summer. You can't do much to avoid it, but you can keep cool with Bold City Heating and Air. It's every customer counts kind of service, from when these trucks have pulled up to my home over the last couple of years and when they pull into your driveway as well. From communication to pricing to the actual service, everyone at Bold City Heating and Air cares about you. You know who is coming to your house. You know they will be well trained and they will respect your home. Air conditioning convenience at BoldCityAC.com. Stay cool while it gets hot. Bold City Heating and Air can help. Don't get caught sweating all summer. BoldCityAC.com. And they have financing to help. New systems starting at $110 a month and $50 off any repairs. Stay safe, stay comfortable with Bold City Heating and Air at BoldCityAC.com. Homegrown in your hometown.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Well, that's the scene down at Jags headquarters. Little Vita de Luis Tequila. They'll be out there, by the way, at the Dream 18 golf tournament coming up on Monday. So you can get a little tequila at the Dream 18 at Southampton on Monday. But this morning, there's a look at some of the new items that will be available during the home opener. We'll have more details coming out, but Liv is there and some of the food and beverage. And, well, they got hot dogs and they got pretzels. So it's a big pretzel, so I like it. Everybody likes a pretzel. Maybe the most popular item added to a menu in recent years is like the big pretzel as an appetizer. And people love them. So you'll have them at Jags games as well. I don't know. That's what I got to figure out, as if this is just in the club area or if this is around the stadium. So I'll get the details on that. But looking good here on a Wednesday morning. Live the foodie down there at Everbank Stadium today. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane in Las Vegas. Nick in the daytime has joined us now. He subbed out Like we're rotating
Nice.
people in and out here. As Kim had to go run and do something. She'll be back, is what we understand. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, you brought it up a couple of times, we really haven't talked about it. You seem a little bit more bothered by it than maybe I do. And that is the Christian Kirk thing.
Yeah.
I did think, huge Kirk guy, by the way, and we'll have him and Brian Thomas on Jaguars All Access tomorrow at String Sports Brewery in Springfield. Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk will be out there. And listen, if that doesn't tell you everything about Christian Kirk, like he doesn't have to go this week coming off a pretty rough game. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. You know, he's cool. He's cool with facing the music. If you listen to the post game, when I asked him about it, he owned it like right away. But it obviously bothers him as a player, and you don't like it as a player. And he must have been scrolling through, man, because I don't even think the tweet, he must have just found it. I don't know how these guys find their stuff, if they're looking it up or if it just kind of lands on their page or whatever. But somebody commented like, yeah, maybe you should play Parker Washington more, blah, 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 blah. And then he commented on top of that, like, keep the same energy up. It was a little bit reminiscent of Trevor from last year at times. It was Kirk has done this in the past, more after the fact of 2022, when people were really clamoring about the contract that he signed. And he said something similar, I want to say, of keep the energy up. And you said he deleted the tweet. I didn't even know that he deleted this tweet. But, I mean, is it a big deal? Is it a big deal? Is it just a little frustration? This guy's the ultimate pro, man. Like, I don't worry about him at all bouncing back. But it seemed to bother you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it always kind of bothers me a little bit, Brent. And listen, like, if this was a rookie, it's one thing, right? But we're talking about Christian Kirk here, who's obviously a seasoned veteran. He knows how to go about his business. He knows what it is to be professional, right? So far be it for me to give him any advice of how to handle himself on the field or off the field. But, I've been pretty consistent in this thought, and I said it a lot when Trevor Lawrence was kind of tweeting and looking at some of the replies of people being very critical of him. You just, to me, it's just energy that you don't have to waste. Okay, because trust me, I've had my fair share of criticism, my fair share of threats in my DMs and everything. And this is more from fighting than it was playing for the Jaguars, obviously. But you start to learn that it just doesn't matter. Like, to me, it's distractions that you don't need to concern yourself with, right? And I don't know, like, if he was name searching himself. I don't know if somebody else saw it and brought it to his attention. Whatever the case may be. But, a fan going, get Parker Washington in there. And then, like, having, I guess, just like this the self-belief that you need to respond to that comment, being a professional football player. It's baffling to me, Brent. And it'd be, once again, it's one thing if it's like a rookie that's doing this. All right, I get it. You still have a lot to learn, young one. But like, this is Christian Kirk. This is a veteran. This is a guy who knows how to do things the right way. And I just question whether, do you gain anything at all from responding back to fans that want to see Parker Washington? And my answer is no, you don't. So then why are you doing it?
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong there. And I think that's probably why he took it down. And listen, it's going to come. He knew it was coming. I mean, he knew the criticism was coming. He said it to me right after the game. So, I mean, he can't be surprised by it. And it's just the way it is. But that would probably hurt a lot because, I mean, like we've said it. I mean, he catches even one of those passes, we think the outcome could be different on top of the Etienne stuff. And I'll tell you this about Kirk, and maybe this is just blind faith and maybe even a sense of bias because I am a big fan of him. And he's one of the great – I don't think he gets talked about enough in that locker room. Like we talk about guys like Calais over the years and Puz. He's of that ilk. He really is in terms of pros. He's so good. And so you really kind of root for guys like that, man, as you know, whether you're a player or even outside the building. And I still think he's going to have a big year. Like I don't think this is going to derail him. I think this is he's dropped passes in the past. I mean, oddly enough, this is a group of receivers, even going back to Zay Jones, that has had its share of drops even when they're having career years and big games. So they seem to move on okay. I don't like the drops. I don't think anybody should like the drops, but they have happened in the past and still had career years. I'm still very confident, and I know Trevor Lawrence is super confident, number 13.
Yeah, and you have to be, right? Because that's still Trevor's go-to guy. It's just, if I guess the way I look at it, Brent, is if you have, and this was Trevor last year as well, like if you have really your leaders and your pillars, your foundation guys doing this, then like what are the guys that aren't that like capable of? I guess like to me, when you're a captain, when you're the quarterback, when you're the experienced veteran, it's almost sometimes an unfair double standard, just because you have to kind of set the culture and you kind of have to show what it's like to be a professional. And maybe these days of clap backing on social media to random strangers who feel a certain type of way, maybe that is the status quo now, and maybe I'm just kind of old and this is more of a get off my lawn type of rant here than it is getting anything out of this. But I just feel like you're sending a message of, well, this guy's talking smack, let me respond to it. Like it doesn't matter, man. All that matters is what you do on the field, and everything else is really secondary. So I hope it's not a trend going forward. I hope it's more of just like, hey, let's focus our energy on the field and getting better, as opposed to like clapping back at Jags Twitter.
Yeah, and here's the other one. And there's getting some comments, about Etienne, and I just saw Marcel Robinson's down at Doug Peterson. He tweeted about Etienne. He's self-motivated. We spoke to Aaron after the game. I just reassured him that we're going to continue to give him the football. I think that's the best thing. Get him back on the horse. That's Doug talking about Travis Etienne. And he's of the same – I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here. He fumbled for the first time in like 20-something games. All right? It was a good play. I think he's a good player. So there's two things. One, he's going to get the football. I think he's still their number one back, but there is conversation coming off week one. And I think you talk about overreaction Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, overreaction on week one. I mean, listen, great job by Tank Bigsby. That was awesome to see. But can we slow things down on taking over the number one running back spot off one game? I mean, one game? I mean, can we have a little bit of like reality check here? I mean, Etienne's been doing it for 2 years behind an offensive line that actually has struggled at times in those 2 years, and he's still got 1,500-plus yards from scrimmage each year. So I'm not off the Etienne train either, and I don't think we should be, Austin. I don't think we should take a good performance from Tank Bigsby and shove him to the top of the line just because.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I'm not sure if you've really seen the national narrative in the fantasy football world, but I was listening to Field Yates a little bit, and they were talking about how, will Tank Bigsby kind of eat into some of Travis Etienne's share? And they're all saying how, well, when Travis Etienne fumbled, that was kind of the last time that we saw him, and then it was the Tank Bigsby show, and he came in and did his thing. It's like, well, you obviously didn't watch the game at all, because that's not what happened. Like, Travis Etienne fumbled, and then he went right back in there again.
Yes.
So there wasn't like, and I think every team does this differently. I think if you talk about a Bill Belichick-led team and Travis Etienne would have done that, we may not have seen Travis Etienne the rest of the year, right? Like I think that's more Bill Belichick's MO. We saw Travis Etienne the next series. So to all the pundits out there on the national level who say like, whoa, he fumbled, so expect Tank Bigsby to get back in, no, that's not true at all, because they had no problem going back to Travis Etienne right after he fumbled. Listen, like I've been very adamant about this, Brent. Like I still think Travis Etienne's your guy until proven, wrong. Like I understand it was a huge mistake. That mistake helped cost you the game, but you still have to roll with the guy that, for the most part has been consistent for how many years now, has been dependable for how many years, who has been explosive for how many years. Now, if you want to couple that, like I've wanted you to do for, since the start of the season, and get a big dose of Tank Bigsby in there as well, fantasy football owners might be pissed off about it, but I'm not going to be pissed off about it, right? Because it's about winning games. And I think that's the best way to win games. So I think going forward, it's going to be more of the same. Like, I don't think we saw the emergence of Tank Bigsby because of the Travis Etienne fumble. I think that was always the plan. And I think anybody that was covering this team during training camp or listened to Doug Peterson's comments could see that. I guess my biggest question to you, Brent, is when that fumble happened, and obviously it drastically changed the game. It was a 14-point swing. Do you think that he should have been benched a little bit? Do you think that he should have had time to kind of think about what he did, or do you think it was better just to kind of get him right back in there and say, "Hey, man, we're still depending on you. Go out there and get it"?
Yeah, I don't think so at all. I think they handled it the perfect way. I don't like the other way. You know me, man. I like talking about the psychology of sports, and I'll also say this. I think there's built-up equity for a guy like Etienne and what he's done. I don't think there was built-up equity necessarily for Tank Bigsby. I think you can look in a guy's eyes sometimes and be like, ooh, this guy's not feeling good after that, and he might need to shake this off on the sideline. I don't think that's it with Etienne. I mean, again, the first fumble in like 20-something games for Travis Etienne. So this is no different than Trevor throwing an interception. You don't go bench him. So I just don't think I don't like that. I like the way the Jags handle it. I actually think they learned a little bit from the way they dealt with Bigsby last year in these kind of situations. They kind of lost confidence in him. He lost confidence in himself. They went back to him late at the end of the year, but by then it was too late to help him develop. So yeah, I totally agree with the way they did it. In fact, I like the way they did it in getting him the football first. The first play went to him. Now, not with a handoff, if I remember correctly, but it was a little screen play, and I don't know if it went for like 7-8 yards or something like that, but they got him involved right after. Got him back on the horse, as Doug said. To me, that's the way to go anyway, but I actually think that's what I like about Doug, because he's been there before, Austin, and he knows kind of this is the way a player should respond. Go give him the ball again. Go feed his confidence again. That was a one-time thing, almost like I say about golf. If you talk to professional golfers and elite golfers, they'll be like, yeah, that wasn't my fault. The crowd, the camera clicked, the grass wasn't right, the wind was blowing, my caddy's fault. That's why they have a caddy, so they can blame somebody else, in my opinion. And so they just don't let it invade their psyche of confidence. And I think there was so little time that happened by the time he got back on the field, if you think about this, right? Because, boom, fumble. Miami's ball, touchdown, back on the field. I mean, it was probably real time within 5, 6, 7 minutes. And so, yeah, give it right back to him. I like the way they did that. And I'm not sure you do that with every player, but it's much like I would target Christian Kirk 7 times in this football game coming up, because I think he's burdened to get the football and he'll catch them all.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, we've seen this kind of before a little bit with other NFL teams. Like, anytime you have a receiver who has an off game, who doesn't get the targets, who has big drops, usually the course correction is for him to have that big game. And I do agree with you, Brent. Like, I think benching a running back, like, every case is different. I think if you have a young guy, maybe who's like a first-year guy, this is Travis Etienne's rookie year, maybe you pull him aside a little bit and say, hey, we can't do that here. But obviously he knows that he messed up. Everyone knows that he messed up. But I thought it showed a lot in saying, hey, man, all right, that's a mistake. We're over it. Let's go out there and make another play. And, and I understand, I think this fan base now, and I think the national pundits, they're kind of infatuated with Tank Bigsby a little bit and the emergence of him. But make no mistake about it. Like, if you want this team to go to the playoffs and do what we think they can do, Travis Etienne is going to be a big part of that if they want to be successful. So, I'm not mad at not benching him. I'm not mad at him going back out there right away and giving him more reps, just because you're gonna have to rely on him. Like, yeah, he may have helped cost you a game against Miami, but if you're talking about meaningful games in December, in January, it's gonna be because of Travis Etienne as well.
Yeah, don't forget, folks, all right? At times, he has been one of the most underrated players over the last couple of years in the National Football League. At times and stretches of the last 2 seasons, he has been the best running back in a 4 to 5 week stretch in the National Football League. So, like, he's got that kind of potential in him to really go on a run and especially, you don't want to lose that kind of confidence. I will say this, and I've seen a couple of chats. I think their pass game, I want to see their pass game open some more stuff up for Etienne in the pass game and underneath. I think you can go the opposite way sometimes, because there's a lot of tension on the Brian Thomases and everything else. I don't think we saw that the other day. I think we saw that in preseason where they were going to get down the field. Now, they were number one percentage in explosive plays, so they did get down the field, but I didn't see the stuff underneath opening up for Etienne the way I thought it might. Now, again, worth noting in the football game is they got 50 plays, and that's it. The thing we didn't talk about this week enough is how bad they were on third downs at 2 for 10. They only got 50 plays in the game. Honestly, you're not going to win a lot of football games if you have 50 plays in the game. I just saw these EPA numbers on Trevor Lawrence, Austin. He was 4th in the NFL on some metric or whatever. I mean, 4th in the NFL. He was the 4th best quarterback in all these whatever metrics, however weight you want to put on him. And they lost the football game. Like, it's just crazy to see some of the things that came out of that game, and the Jags were on the losing end, and now some of the narratives that are here. One last thing on the running back spot. Are you surprised at all we never see Bigsby and Etienne on the field at the same time?
Yet. I mean, that is still one game. You could put a package in there for both of them. Yeah, I mean, we call him Tank Bigsby, but he's not really built like a fullback. So, I mean, you have to wonder, in what capacity would it look like? I mean, I feel like Travis Etienne's a guy, too, that you can kind of put in the slot a little bit or, kind of move around, kind of like a Debo, if you will.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see something like that down the line. But, I mean, for the first game of the season, I wasn't too surprised because, Brent, we've seen a lot of things, right? We've seen Evan Ingram at fullback a little bit. We've seen Brenton Strange as an H-back. So, I think there's a lot of wrinkles still out there that have been untapped. And I think, as you progress towards the season, when teams start getting your tendencies down a little bit, that's when you kind of throw that change up and keep them guessing.
All right, I'm going to get way behind on the breaks again. So let's hit one here, even though it's top of the hour, and we'll come back. I have a lot of different things on my mind, but one of them that I want to get to is actually involves Etienne. And just think about this over the next few minutes, and then we'll get to it. Trevor Lawrence, Etienne, Travon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Brian Thomas Jr. Take those 5 guys coming off what you know, how you feel about them, and what we saw on Sunday. So, you have to do a little bit of gymnastics here to get maybe where I'm going. But these are first-round picks of the last, now 4 years. And heck, you could put Anton in here, quite frankly. But take those now 6 guys over the last 4 years. Have the Jags really hit on the first rounders? How do you feel about those first rounders? Because if you feel good, doesn't that say a lot about how you should feel about the football team? We'll talk about it when we come back. Brent Austen Show, Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network. There's the lineup, 6 to 10, Miller and Moulton each morning, 4 to 6, Young and Norvell Show in the afternoon. And by the way, we'll have our picks on Friday. We're competing against the other shows, including Casey's show on Saturday mornings, where he talks college football and all the betting odds for the weekend. And we'll see who can come out on top. We had a good week. We were 5-1 with our picks. A new set of picks roll out later this week. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Maybe you need a new tankless water heater or something a bit more intricate. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Right now, get 10% off any residential job of $500 or more. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
At Southampton, local golfers have no shortage of options when it comes to picking a course to play here in Northeast Florida year-round. Yet time and time again, I find myself here at the Golf Club at Southampton. Easy to get to off 210 in St. Johns County. It's family-owned and operated and renowned for being one of the area's most player-friendly. That's just one of the reasons we hold the Action Sports Jax Dream 18 charity golf tournament here each fall. The Mark McCumber design layout is great for all skill levels of golfers, from the guys who bomb it a mile on the range to golfers like me who are just happy to put it in the fairway, which Southampton has very accommodating fairways. And if you need new clubs, come down to the pro shop. They'll fit you up and get you a nice new set like they did for me. For more information on membership or to book a tee time and see for yourself, head over to golfsouthampton.com or call the clubhouse at 904-287-7529. The Golf Club at Southampton. It's the official home of the Action Sports Jax Dream 18. Make it your home for golf too.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Look at some UNF and Florida State volleyball. Big volleyball fan. Steph played volleyball in college. He coached volleyball high school up in Albany, New York, so we like volleyball in our house. And that was a heck of a point right here. Watch the slide and the kill. I think that was Jacqueline Arrington. I don't have the script in front of me, but that'd be some good remembering from last night if that was the case. And then how about that? Almost a 10-foot line on the kill. But FSU did win while I was there in set number 2. Actually, UNF dominated pretty much most of that game. But they lose in 4 sets to Florida State, who's number 21 in the country. I guess there's been a lot of big upsets as we had Coach on yesterday around the country. And I was like, oh, maybe we got another one brewing here in Jacksonville. Fun and good crowd at the University of North Florida last night. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane out in Las Vegas. Volleyball, Wisconsin, you got some good volleyball up there. I mean, I've told you this story in the past, I think, but I ran cross country my sophomore year of high school. I was in the gym, in the bleachers, ready to go try out for volleyball because I just wanted something to do in the fall because I did 2 sports, winter, spring, but I just wanted something to do. And so I was like, going to go play volleyball. Now I'm like 4'0", right? So, and that's a sophomore in high school. So I'm tiny, like Ty. So I was small. And so I'm sitting in the bleachers and I'm thinking, I'll play volleyball. What the hell? Like this, I'll try something. And the gym teacher that I had known for a while, he comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, we need some more people to run cross country. Like, you want to just run cross country? I'm like, I don't really know anything about volleyball. I'm kind of small. Like, that doesn't probably add up. All right, fine. I'll run cross country. Freaking worst thing I ever did in my life. Like, one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life was to do that. Cross country absolutely sucked. And I did tell you this. It finished that story. Is I finished last in the state of Rhode Island in cross country my sophomore year. In the state meet, but then I would go. So I go to these volleyball games. Now I wouldn't have played like varsity volleyball. I'm assuming I would have been JV. We only had 10th, 11th, 12th grade, by the way, in my high school at the time, and I probably would have played JV, I assume. But we were good, man. Like, and I go to these volleyball games, and that was the first time I'd really seen like high school volleyball or anything. But like people were there. It was packed. There was an energy about it. I was like, what the hell did I make this decision for? I should have played this.
Yeah, that's a horrible call, Brent. I mean, you really go from an electrifying sport like volleyball. And to answer your question, yes, volleyball is big in Wisconsin, Brent. The Wisconsin Badgers won a national championship back in 21.
Wow,
and
look at
I think
you.
last year they made it to the semifinals. Yeah, I mean, they're really good. I mean, I've kind of followed the team a little bit because, they're usually like 1 or 2 in the nation. I think this year, I think they're top 5, but they're always really solid. But nevertheless, very horrible call on your part to opt for cross country. I mean, I would have walked the whole course. I mean, I'd have been 5 minutes into my cross country run and has been like, yeah, this isn't for me, and just walk the rest of the way. But
I kind of did.
I mean, come on, man. But the one, like, I didn't grow up really playing volleyball because I had other sports to play. But my big volleyball, I would say, showcase that ended up backfiring in my face and a bunch of my friends' faces was for junior prom. Everyone's got junior prom and everything. And on junior prom, you get to pick where the prom court wants to go out for dinner, before the big prom. So it was homecoming week, and we had a deal where our junior guys would play the junior girls in volleyball, and whoever won the match get to pick where we're going to go eat for prom. They wanted to go to like this fancy Japanese restaurant, and us being dudes and being a bunch of bros wanted to go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. So we were cocky, Brent. We had athletes. We had all-state football players. We had the size. We had the strength. We were trash talking. Like there was no way that we were not going to go to the all-you-can-eat buffet for prom. Like it was nothing but a guarantee. Vegas would have had our odds at like -1,000. Well, we played. It was like the rally scoring. We played till to like I think 21. We played to, and we ended up losing 21-15 in front of the entire school.
Wow.
Got embarrassed. The girls are running set plays and everything, and all this trash and. Needless to say, the checkbook took a little bit of a hit, having to go to this more expensive Japanese restaurant as opposed to just going to an all-you-can-eat buffet like the dudes wanted to.
That's awesome. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. I mean, it was that kind of thing. They're on the volleyball court up there in Wisconsin. The odds makers were hurting.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue with my volleyball story, okay? There's one more element to this. So the reason why I regret it mostly is because then I go to college and I meet Steph freshman year, like 3 months in, right? So we're like married from the jump in college, basically. And she's playing volleyball. And so we end up actually, I don't remember when we would have done this, but then I start playing intramural volleyball on occasion, like co-ed intramural volleyball with Steph. I don't know why they let her play. I'm trying to figure that out in my head right now, but maybe it was her off season or something. But then her off season might have been my baseball season, so I don't know. But I was playing. So then we kind of we're having a blast playing. So I don't know if we did that for a couple of years or I just occasionally played. And Steph's like, hey, you're not really that bad at it. Like, you're okay. Got decent hands. Like, can dig it a little bit. Well, fast forward to going into our senior year, right before senior year of college. Steph actually came to Rhode Island and lived with us that summer. So that summer,
nice.
We built a beach volleyball court at my parents' house. There was a piece on the side grass. There's this perfect little patch of grass, not little, but for a full court volleyball, beach volleyball. And I'm like, let's do this. Like, we'll have all our buddies over. We'll play. This would be awesome. We'd play till 9 o'clock at night, whatever. So I don't remember the amount, but it was like a crazy amount of tons of sand dumped at my parents' house and literally shoveled it all around Steph and I and maybe like a couple others on occasion. So much so that she hurt her back doing it. I was like, oh, great, your senior year and you're like hurting your back because we're building a beach volleyball court. And we had a beach volleyball court at my parents' house for like the next 10 years until my dad's like, you guys aren't using this. I'm just going to let it go and put grass back, But we built a beach volleyball court. So that will take you full circle from my sophomore year where I picked cross country over volleyball.
So we had a friend, her name was Jenna, and she lived in the middle of the country, and she was a big volleyball player. This was back in high school. And she had a mud beach volleyball, like a mud volleyball court. You ever see mud volleyball, Brent?
No.
Okay, so this is like a big Wisconsin thing, I feel like, and a big Midwest thing. But basically, it's like all the dimensions of a regular volleyball court, but then like you just dig up dirt and then you just take the hose and you like spray all around. Like if you type in mud volleyball, they have like mud volleyball tournaments.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
So we used to always in the summertime. Yeah, we used to have mud volleyball games, and then she lived right next to a lake. So then when the game was done, then we go jump in the lake and obviously clean off and everything. But yeah, grew up playing a lot of mud volleyball as well, which it's fun, but it's also super challenging because you don't have good footing. Obviously, you don't have good athleticism. You're kind of at the will of the mud, if you will, and. Needless to say, it's a lot more of a stationary game, unless you want to risk it for the biscuit and go head first and dive into the mud, which I've done many times. But definitely an experience as well.
This is there's actually like a couple of feet of water at the one I'm watching or looking at.
Yeah.
So it's like almost playing inside almost beach volleyball, but you're playing in the ocean. Like you're actually in the ocean. It would be.
Yeah, so the ones that we so it wasn't that much water for us. Like it was enough water where obviously you have like goopy mud, where it kind of looked like when you're done, like this septic tank exploded on you a little bit. But
that sounds pleasing.
Or like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. Like pick your poison. But you're essentially covered from head to toe. Like even in your ears was just mud.
I've seen some other ones. This probably is like out of Wisconsin. And it's less water. I don't necessarily understand the mud volleyball, the mud runs. Like they don't do a lot for me, man. Like I don't want to be head to toe in mud. And by the way, not just head to toe, but everywhere else.
No, listen, I understand, man, but it's Wisconsin, and when you get a few beers in you, it's like, whatever. Bring on the mud. Let's have some fun.
You. That's cool. Yeah. I like the idea of it. I just don't know if I'd be jumping in. I'll play rough on that one.
I've thought about doing a mud run.
I was going to ask, Kim, you do some running? You haven't done a mud run?
No.
All right. People love that mud run.
We were young, our yard would flood when it rained, and we'd all the kids in the neighborhood would get together and we'd play mud baseball where the bases were just mud puddles.
That would be I like that. Now that's fun. Listen, if you're 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, whatever, a little different than when you're like 35 playing doing the mud run and stuff. But that does
and Kim, so Kim Possible, when you say the mud run, is it like one of those runs where you have to like army crawl through like this like barbed wire that can like shock you and stuff, or is it just more just like you kind of run through mud for a couple miles and then you call it a day?
No, the obstacle ones, yeah. I think it would be
Okay,
fun,
gotcha. Yeah.
but
Oof.
I'd probably want to be her first. Or after. Or both.
Yeah, or a couple.
All right, let's get back to some football talk. I said this before the break, and now I've given you plenty of time to think about it, folks. But if I'm looking at the obviously they pay Trevor Lawrence, and you come off that game where like, hey, Trevor played pretty well in that first half, just didn't have a chance in the second. You take Etienne overall, and I know people are going to look at the fumble, but I think Etienne, if you take the last couple of years, and then it's been good. Travon Walker is really coming on, and I'm going to show you some evidence of that in just a minute, but he's coming on. Devin Lloyd, nice positive sign the other day. It's a small sample, so it kind of works the opposite of the way my Etienne is building, but maybe there's something to grab onto there with Devin Lloyd. And then you add in what Brian Thomas Jr., which by many accounts had the best rookie debut of anybody in the National Football League, some would say. And then if you want to throw in Anton Harrison, who really had a rough game, maybe his worst game as a pro, but last year showed a lot of promise that this guy's going to be in it for a long time. I mean, if you take those 6 players, Austin, over the last 4 years picked in the first round, this was an organization, remember, that had a hell of a hard time landing first rounders. And if you really want to go back to do that, I know 2020 was a disaster. That's like the poster child for it, with 2 misses with Chason and Henderson. But even prior to that, they obviously got Josh Allen, and Josh is now extended. But I just want to take these 6 guys over the last 4 years. What does it mean? Like, is that more of a sign that you can find a lot of good in those 6 players, or you think there's a lot to grab onto? And to some degree, like, there's stuff to grab onto. Others, you're maybe hitting and hoping a little bit about where this organization is. And sooner or later, no matter what, you can have a bad loss in Miami, or you might not feel great right now, but that's going to rise to the top when you do that well with your first rounders and you hit on players like that.
No, I mean, that's what it's all about, Brent, right? Is that you have to hit on your first rounders. You have to get, the bang for the buck, if you will. And I think for the most part, they have. Now, yes, he had probably his best game of the season against Miami. The best game of the season, his first game, but the best game of his career against Miami. But, there's still a lot to see with Lloyd because, it has taken a little bit to get here. With Trevor, obviously you made him the franchise quarterback. More power to you. With Travon Walker, we're always going back and forth. Who's the better player, Aiden Hutchinson or Travon Walker? And they'll probably be tied together until the day that they both retire, right? And you can throw Kayvon Thibodeau in there. But, honestly, Brent, once again, I don't know because, I watched that Lions-Rams game, and obviously Hutchinson was making a big difference as well. But, I don't know who I'd rather have. I'm perfectly fine with having Travon Walker in Jacksonville. I don't think there's a drop-off between him and Aiden Hutchinson. I think they're both great players. I think they both make, they're difference makers for their teams. But I think Travon Walker fits Jacksonville nice. Wouldn't you agree? Would you rather have? And I get it. We can be a little biased, but take off the teal colored glasses quick. Would you rather have Hutchinson right now or Travon Walker?
Yeah. I've never thought, and I don't think it's teal colored. I've never thought, man, Jack should have taken Hutchinson, or man, I wish I had him. I really like Travon. I really like his skill set. I really see he's still ascending. I think Hutchinson is good, and no doubt. I don't think you could deny that. But I also think he might have he went 0 to 60 quick. You know what I'm saying? And I think we're just seeing a slower run to 60 for Travon Walker, but it's still going. He might get to 80. You know what I mean? I don't know where it ends for Travon Walker. I don't know if I see a TJ Watt 18 sack guy in Aiden Hutchinson, Austin. I'm not sure if he's that guy. I think he's a really good player, but I don't know if he's that guy. I can't tell you that Travon Walker isn't that guy yet. I don't know where the ceiling stops. Did we lose Austin? You might not have liked
He's
that.
there. I don't hear him anymore.
Oh. Might not have liked my commentary there. But we'll get Austin back on. Might just bump something. And but anyway, the bigger point for me, and I think that's a good argument, or not even an argument, but it's if you take year one, 3.5 sacks versus Hutchinson, I think was around 10.5, something like that, or 9.5 it was. It was 9.5. And just the way he did it in the primetime games, see, that's where Hutchinson really has made a name for himself. Like what he's done in the primetime games, I think when the TV cameras are on him, man, he's been good. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a knock. I'm just saying at the right moments, really good. I think Herbert had a little bit of this going back, and so what you build is this almost equity and rapport with people. Like this guy's really good, you know. And I think if you deep dive on Travon, he's a much quieter player in that regard. He doesn't have his face painted, right? He's not representing the hometown and the Michigan, Detroit thing. The Lions have actually been better anyway. He fits perfectly with the Campbell stuff. Like there's not that with Travon. But that doesn't mean he's not a good football player. And I think he's a really good football player. And I know Austin doesn't love the fact of moving him around, but the bottom line is he can play multiple positions on that front because he's that good of a football player. And he got off to a hell of a start with 2 more sacks. All right, we got you back, man. So sorry I missed you there for a second.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I think what I eventually said was I don't know where the ceiling is for Travon Walker. I think we're still figuring that part out. I'm not to tell you that I've seen the ceiling of Aiden Hutchinson, but I think we have a little bit more of an idea of where he's kind of settled in as a football player, which can be a very good end. I'm just not sure if there's still some more in the tank for Travon that might be like elite kind of player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was really adamant about this when we were kind of dissecting that draft class and who do you take? Do you take Thibodeau? Do you take Hutchinson? Or do you take Travon Walker at number 1 because you're in desperate need of an edge rusher? And like, you know, my biggest thing was I think Hutchinson was the most NFL ready player just because, you know, the pedigree, how it went at Michigan, his style, it reminded me a lot of like the Bosa brothers. And I think you're seeing a guy who came to the NFL right away who, you know, understood it and, you know, is still ascending, but like kind of got off to the head start just because of the pedigree. And then you had a guy like Travon Walker who, you know, was playing all these positions and was playing with a lot of great players at Georgia and wasn't really counted on to be the guy all the time, if you will. And that's the thing that we have to keep on remembering, you know, as fans here is like, yeah, the guy had double-digit sacks last year. Yes, the guy has 2 sacks right now. He's still learning how to play the position. Okay, Hutchinson, like, yeah, he shifted a little bit too from the 3-4 to a 4-3, so he had to learn some new things. But, like, he's pretty seasoned now at defensive end, at the edge. Travon Walker is still learning the position, and he's learning it and playing at a very high level at the same time. So that's a rare commodity there. And then, you know, when it came down to Kayvon Thibodeau, I said this. I think he was the biggest boomer bust guy out of that group just because, you know, you see the athleticism, you see the get off, you see the bend, and it's like this guy can either be the next Von Miller or, you know, with the attitude, with the personality, he can fizzle out in a couple years. And I think he had a good year last year. He was very productive. I still think it remains to be seen, though, like, can he elevate himself out of this, you know, out of this group of 3 to be the top guy? I still think he has a ways to go to do that. So, yeah, I mean, go ahead and give me Travon Walker. Give me the guy who's still learning the position, but is also playing the position at a very, very high level.
Brent Martineau, Austin Lane out in Vegas. Kim's Corner here as well on a Whataburger Wednesday. Kim, can we throw up this that full screen? Were you able to get that? Hey, look at that. You got it. Didn't even like budge, Kim. You were just like, hey, I got this. Don't worry. Very calmly did that. So, hey, I don't know if you can see this, Austin, but so here's what I did.
Okay.
I took his first 20 games. I think I did the math right here, too, but you'll get the idea regardless. First 20 games, which goes to his rookie year in 22, where he got 3.5 sacks. And then really the first 5 games of last year, I think, which was through the Buffalo game, if I'm not mistaken, in London, which, by the way, started to come on a little bit in those London games. But that's where I put the separator. And then the last 13 games that he's had, he has 10 sacks in 13 games compared to the 5.5 he had in the first 20. He's got 7 tackles for losses in 13 versus 9 in 20. He's got more quarterback hits in 7 less games than he did in the opening 20. And the pressures are getting closer and closer as well. So, I mean, to me, this is an indicator that Walker is on the rise, and I think it's a little bit under the radar how good he was at the second half of last year. I've said this a couple times on the show. It's a bit reminiscent of Trevor Lawrence back end 2022, and then the way he started in 2023 when you took that whole compilation of time bridging 2 seasons. I think we're getting a little bit of that right now from Travon Walker, and it's a hell of a sign, Austin.
We'll see what it looks like this season, Brent, right? Because you still have a guy who hasn't even reached his full potential yet. And like, it really begs you to question, like, when he does reach that full potential, what will it look like? And I'm not trying to like over embellish it and say like the guy's like the next JJ Watt or anything, but you look at a guy like JJ Watt or even heck, Joshua Hines Allen, and like just, how they can just take a game over. Or now you have, TJ Watt doing the same thing in Pittsburgh. I mean, he had a great game if you watched the Steelers play on Sunday. You wonder what it's going to look like. And listen, and this has been my biggest gripe, I would say. I don't want to say gripe, but this is my biggest concern is, you have a guy who's still learning the positions and everything, who was asked to do a lot of different things at Georgia. And now he's kind of cemented his role as an edge rusher here in Jacksonville. And you've seen both of his sacks came from the edge. I was very leery of don't move him inside, keep him on the outside, keep letting him grow a little bit. And then eventually when he gets that position down, then move him, right? Because it's almost like, there's 2 schools of thought here, Brent. Do you take a guy who is super athletic, who has all the capabilities, and you just move him around because he can handle it? Or do you take the guy and say, okay, we want you to learn this position first. Once you've mastered this position, then we can move you around a little bit and you can learn other stuff. Because I'm not calling him JJ Watt yet, but it reminds me a lot of JJ Watt, who was more brought in as a 3 technique, and that's where he was until he showed this guy is special. So let's go ahead and move him around. Let's go ahead and set him up on matchups where he can win every single time. Oh, and by the way, let's put him at tight end as well, too, in goal line packages. Eventually it got to that point. I hope they do the same thing for Travon. I hope it's really, all right, you're playing edge right now, you're playing defensive end, master this, learn this, and then guess what? If we play a team that maybe has a guard or like a guard center combination that's very, open for getting dominated, play in and play out, then move him down there as well.
Yeah, some people will throw some metrics out. I think there was a comment in the chat actually that isn't he a better run stuffer? Yeah, I think he's very good against the run. And Travon I think he had the best win rate, whatever the hell that is. These metrics, we can make something. But the run win rate or something was 54%, I think I saw, and that was the best in the NFL. So, listen, I don't. We get carried away with a lot of these numbers, but I get what they mean. I don't know specifically. I mean, if you add enough of them up, the bottom line is it supports the point I'm making. He's playing good football, and he is a wrecker in the run game too. Like, there are a lot of people last year, and even when some of the numbers weren't there, this is last year before he probably got on this hot streak, they're like, that dude changes every play on the defensive front.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of attention he gets. And they have 2 guys. Josh got a lot of attention, it sounds like, from the Miami offense. And so, and now you add Eric Armstead in, and it was a cool moment. Yes, as I was watching back the Travon interview, Stewart got him in the locker room on Monday, and somebody asks Travon about Eric Armstead. And as they ask, there's this huge smile that gets on the face of Travon, who, by the way, is usually very like low-key, subtle, stoic, if you will. And I mean, he just like this glowing smile, and then he delivers an answer. Man, I loved it. I can remember a play. Like, how much Armstead is going to help Travon Walker.
Yeah.
Said it in the smile to me, Austin. So I think, one game sample, obviously Armstead coming back into it a little bit. He'll probably take a few more weeks to kind of get up to full speed. But if this goes the way they envision it, that front should be really good.
Yeah, and obviously if you're Eric Armstead, if you're Josh Hines Allen, if you're Travon Walker, you're all excited because you know what the task at hand is when you have more than one great edge rusher, when you have an interior push who's a guy who's really good as well, everybody eats, Brent. Like those are fun defenses to play in. I remember playing, with the Detroit Lions and playing with Ndamukong Suh. Like, that was fun to play with because you understood that this guy's getting all the attention. Like, this guy, even if you double team him, you're not going to stop Ndamukong Suh. And that makes things so much easier on the edge. And when you look at, offensive coordinators trying to game plan now for this Jaguars defense and everything, and there's a lot of wrinkles and all this stuff, but like the first thing I'm looking at is how do we stop Eric Armstead? How do we stop Josh Hines-Allen? How do we stop Travon Walker? And like, okay, you can script things to stop maybe one edge rusher, like a TJ Watt, like a Bosa, but how do you stop all three of those guys? And there's not an answer because you simply cannot. So when you're a defensive line and you know that you have that at your disposal, those are fun defensive lines to play with.
Yeah, it's I would agree. Listen, Duval Jack says, I like Josh Hines-Allen at the lighter playing weight. Looked a step slower last Sunday. And with all due respect, first of all, I don't know if he was a step slower. Secondly, I think we see what we want to see sometimes. I think their pass rush rate and stuff wasn't great. Miami's offensive line played pretty well in that game by all those metrics. So I think we assume that he was slower. I didn't necessarily feel that way or see that. But I'm not telling you it's not the case. I think we just need a bigger sample to see if that's the case. And Austin, if that is the case, that's on the Jags. I mean, obviously Ryan Nielsen had him add weight. This wasn't like, this is a guy that's gone from 250 something to 285. Not overnight.
Yeah.
But since he got drafted over these 5 years. So I'm not saying he's going to play bad because of that. I'm not going to, I didn't see what Duval Jags is saying. I don't know if you saw it, but I think we need more of a sample to see if that's going to be the case, because guess what? Travon Walker did the same thing, and we weren't saying he looked a step slow.
No, for sure, Brent, but to be fair, and like I do agree with you, we do need a bigger sample size to see if it was a mistake or not to add weight if you're Josh Hines-Allen. But I will say this, everyone puts on weight differently, and everyone responds to weight differently. I mean, if you look at Travon Walker and how big that dude is, yeah, you feel like he can handle it. Not to say that Josh Hines-Allen can't, but, you add 10, 15 pounds of muscle. Some guys will feel quicker, some guys will feel stronger, and maybe some guys will feel a little more lackadaisical. I mean, when I had to put on 20 pounds or 25 pounds for Kansas City, when I played a 3-4 defensive end, yeah, I mean, I had a couple months to do it, so it wasn't done the best way. A lot of barbecue and a lot of barbecue sauce, but I didn't feel my best. I did feel a step slower, and so and that's the thing, and it's cliche, but it's the truth. Like, it's a game of steps, it's a game of inches, and it's literally a game of, a 0.2 get, like a 0.0 second get off can make the difference between getting a sack and becoming a touchdown. So, yeah, I'm gonna need more of a sample size, but it's a good question. It's a good observation where we saw Travon Walker dominate against Miami, and Josh Hines-Allen now, one of the highest paid edge rushers. I mean, he did his part too as well, but like, at what point are we going to start to see, kind of like that TJ Watt takeover, if you will, from Joshua Hines-Allen?
Yeah, and I think, again, what I saw coming out of that game, and some other folks have talked about, is like he got a lot of attention. Like, the attention getter on that line was Josh on Sunday. So that's going to come with the territory as well. He knows he's going to absorb more of that, but also some of the weight being put on was the ability to do that, still shed there and get to a tackle or make a play. So it's a little bit of a different philosophy, I think. I'm not saying it's going to work, and I do think it's a dangerous thing. I mean, anytime we talk about weight, Austin, we've been doing this together for years, and I say this all the time. So, to exactly what you just said, I've seen it. I've seen guys say, hey, I'm going to put on weight. I'm going to be a vegetarian. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to, they try different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's a fair curiosity coming off a monster season. Why would you change anything if you're Josh Hines-Allen? But it wasn't really on him. I don't think he changed it. I think this is what the defense presented. This is what Nielsen wanted. This is what they want in their guys. They have a body type. And so they paid Josh Hines-Allen, but they also might have made him less fast, less flexible. in that regard, but it might make him better in some of the areas of the defense that maybe just don't show up in terms of sacks. So we need more to see. And one last thing about this, Austin, to your point, you might have felt it right away after all that barbecue and barbecue sauce in Kansas City, but I don't know if a guy like Josh Hines-Allen, like you talk yourself into it going in, right? Like, hey, for Josh, like, hey, I feel good, I feel strong, I feel big, I feel explosive, I feel hand in the dirt, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm there mentally. But then you go play 50 plays in a game, and you're like, oh, crap. Like, you don't know it until you know it. So...
yeah.
And I didn't sense that from Josh. I don't know that from Josh. You just kind of wonder if he's like, this is going to be a little more challenging than I thought with these extra 13 pounds. Whereas Travon told us when we were asking him about it, he had actually played at 295 back in the day at Georgia. So he's been there before. Yeah. Josh has never been there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to carry weight differently, Brent, and everyone's body's going to respond differently. Yeah, and I guess it comes down to me, and I'm not sure if we ever really got the answer. Like, I know Josh, he put some weight on and he feels great, he feels faster, all this stuff, kind of, the pro rhetoric, if you will. But what was the point of Josh Hines-Allen putting on weight? Were they trying to bump him on the inside too a little bit, or
no? I think what they're trying to do in that defense is this is what I don't pretend to know this X's and O's stuff, but my understanding of it is they want a little bit more of a cookie cutter style of player on that front in this style of defense, in part to be able to take on double teams and to be able to shed double teams and to be able to absorb double teams. And also because I think the way they're going to play and so much nickel play and everything else, that they'll be light in the box at times. So that's the pieces that I've put together of why they wanted these guys a little bit heavier. I don't know if I'm 100% sure. If that makes sense, Austin, then I'll take credit for being right.
No, it absolutely does. But yeah, for sure. Because with Travon Walker, we were hearing, okay, he could go inside a little bit, and then it made sense, right? If you're going to rush from a 3 technique, from a 4-eye, or whatever you want to call it, you probably should add a little more weight. With Joshua Hines-Allen, I just didn't know if that was the case or not. So, okay, I guess it makes a little sense where you want to be a little more stout, whether it's setting the edge, you want to be a little more stout, whether it's taking the double teams on, from a tight end and a tackle, or if you get bumped inside a little bit from a guard and a tackle. Okay, I guess that does make sense, especially nowadays because a lot of defenses spend the most time in nickel. So I guess that does make sense. I guess my biggest thing and my rebuttal to that would be and I don't have the numbers, I don't have the analytics, the EPA in front of me or anything, but I'm not sure if Josh Hines-Allen was really that susceptible in the run game. I'm not sure if he was really a liability last year in the run game. I feel like he wasn't.
He's good. I think he
still played solid, and he still did his part. I mean, the overall consensus of last year was the interior defensive line wasn't doing the job in the run game. We didn't really hear a lot about the edge of Travon Walker and Joshua Hines-Allen. So, yeah, I mean, once again, Brent, it's a small sample size. We'll see how it plays out. But if we're talking about week 3, week 4, and maybe, Joshua Hines-Allen still looking for, his first sack, then it definitely warrants some talking about.
Yeah, I did not see him look slow. In fact, Corey, I think, brings up a good point. This is what I saw when I did watch some Josh plays and kind of keyed in on him on Sunday. He says, also, Josh had some great containment on 2. I'd rather Josh be a step slower, but in better position per play. And I saw that. I thought he set the edge very well there. I thought some of that screen stuff, now that's not going to be the case every game. You're not going to get that style all the time. But I thought he did, that's what I was trying to say on Monday and even Sunday when people on my timeline were like, well, they're not getting to him. They're not getting to him. I was like, I don't know if they're intentionally on some of these plays trying to get to him. I think it's a little bit remember when they do the dummy rush with Aaron Rodgers where they're just just keep it contained, right? Yep. We're not going after him. There's a little bit of that, I think, with Miami because of all the screen plays to be able to muddy that up. And that's what my eyes said. I don't know if that was the case because, again, I don't claim to know what their scheme and plan and what they're trying to execute is. But that's what I saw. So, and then I did see him go upfield a couple of times where I thought I got held a couple of times, including on the Travon Walker sack that knocked him out of field goal position. So I think he still made a huge impact. Zach says, for a guy so obsessed with this process, I'm just surprised he was on board with the weight gain. Well, here's my perspective on that, Zach. The perspective I have is he's looking at a guy like Eric Armstead last week. Austin said he's played zero technique to wide nine. And then you get a guy like who's the mentor for Josh Hines-Allen is Calais Campbell. And Calais has played really a couple of spots on the offensive line, and he's played at various weights. I think he's played as high as 305, 308, 310, and down to 294, 305, something like that. So he's fluctuated in his career. So I think he's looking at players like Armstead, players like Calais, and saying, hey, I can do more if I'm playing at this weight and move around as long as I don't lose my speed and my burst and all of those kind of things. So he's still, in that sense, probably a young player trying to figure it out. But, I mean, Calais probably did that until he was like 30 years old, until he could actually figure it out. Now he's 38 and still playing and still doing it.
No, for sure. And, but I guess the one thing you make an argument for is, listen, when I had to put on all that weight, I didn't have a choice. I was taken by the Chiefs off the waiver wire because they had first dibs. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have played a 3-4 defensive end, but that's the way the league works sometimes. We're talking about a guy in Joshua Hines-Allen, though, who is coming off of a 17.5 sack season, so I understand wanting to be a team guy and doing what's best for the team and team this, but also I wonder if there's any conversation if you're Joshua Hines-Allen saying listen, you only put this weight on, that's fine, but I also had 17.5 sacks last year with my weight, so once again, Brent, everyone's body responds differently. I'm not hitting the panic button yet or anything like that. It's the world of an edge rusher, it's the world of a pass rusher where they happen in bunches. Maybe you don't have one game. Maybe, Hines-Allen comes out next game and he has 3 against Deshaun Watson. It could very well be a thing. But it is a narrative and it's something to watch now, because if this season ends and we talk about he didn't even have double-digit sacks, because I think we all agree, we expect Joshua Hines-Allen to get in that 12-sack range. I think that means listen, you're earning your money, you're being a great team contributor. If we get at least 12 sacks out of you, you're humming, you're doing your thing. If that's not the conversation, then that narrative is going to be, all right, well, was that weight gain maybe more detrimental, and should they have just kept him where it was, where he had 17.5 sacks last season?
Yeah, it'll be something to watch. I don't think. I guess what I'm trying to say, it's not a red flag yet. I'm not there. I think he's fine. I didn't see the slow step. I think it's a little bit. You see what you want to see on occasion, and you're not going to get back there every time. I mean, Josh had 17.5 sacks last year, and there were still times where they didn't get the pass rush back there. That's just going to be the case. Yeah. So we'll see a little bit more. Maybe he has a chance to get some this week against Deshaun Watson and an offensive line that hasn't played very well. All right, we got to take a timeout. We take a timeout. We come back. We got more football. What did Doug Peterson say today? We will tell you a little bit. We had Antonio Johnson on Jaguars All Access. We'll get to that. On Jags Report Live on Monday. If you missed any of it, we'll have a little bit of it for you later on in the show. And we had a little Colorado-Buffalo conversation, too. Because there is something strange about the whole Deion, Colorado coverage, everything else that we thought we'd venture into for a couple of moments. As you take a look at some of the food and beverage, including Vita De Louis, who will be at our Action Sports Jax Stream 18 on Monday. Food and beverage down at the stadium today. A little food tour for some of the new things going on at the stadium this coming Sunday and in 2024. Jags with a home opener coming up 1 o'clock on CBS 47 against the Cleveland Browns.
In Northeast Florida, we love hanging out on the back patio, maybe grilling out lunch or dinner with the family, enjoying the good weather, or maybe enjoying the big game on the TV. Or maybe your favorite team in town, the Action Sports Jax team. This is great, except for when it's really hot or the bugs start coming out. But what if you didn't have to worry about that? Titan Outdoor Solutions will make your outdoor area a comfortable spot any time of the day, any time of the year. This makes too much sense. Titan Outdoor Solutions can give your home an upgrade. Customized pergolas, awnings, controlled shade, even retractable screens. The solution to beating the heat and the bugs and getting more use out of your home is Titan Outdoor Solutions. And this can even help prevent storm damage at your home. Living in Florida and living in your home is already good. Now make it great. Quality products, custom work, locally owned and operated. Visit TitanShuttersAndScreens.com or call 904-484-7580.
People helping people is at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From 1954 to 2024, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. That commitment includes a partnership with the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team as the presenting sponsor of all Armada men's and women's broadcasts this summer. Action Sports Jacks and Alive Credit Union, a partnership that just makes sense when it comes to covering Northeast Florida. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of our first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, you can save $1,000 or more when you bundle the Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Financing options available with approved credit. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices her pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com. Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
And welcome back to a Whataburger Wednesday. Brent Martineau here in the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 studios. I got to clean this stuff up. I mean, look, we got Whataburger everywhere here. We got Whataburger coffee. We got Whataburger pickleball paddles over there that we play with in here. We need a pickleball net. Just Whataburger it up. Whataburger's going to be out at the Action Sports Shack Stream 18 as well, coming up on Monday. Get some of the breakfast goodies with coffee as well, and iced coffee too. Looking forward to it. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane in Vegas, Kim's Corner as well. And I got a little Colorado thought or two coming up. And Austin, I'm going to say something. I debate whether to say this stuff. Speaking of debates. Okay. But we don't get into the political stuff here on the show, unless it's like there's something that's always relevant, but unless there's just something that kind of breaches over into the sports world or something like that. But I don't know if this bothered you as much as it bothers me today as I got up and thought about it. And I don't know if it bothers everybody else. It may be all over social media. I'm not even sure because I just don't pay attention at all to that landscape and the rhetoric that goes on and the back and forth. But obviously we had a debate last night, presidential debate. Yep. And today is a day that I feel like touches me more than any other day on the calendar, still some 20-something years later after 9/11. And I think everybody, different generations, has these different moments in their life. But this is one, obviously, for our country. But I'm just telling you individually, this is one that really still resonates. And honestly, I don't have anybody that was deeply impacted close to me. So it's just that kind of day. And I couldn't help but think that this is a day where 9/11, where we remember those that were impacted. We recognize the efforts that were made, but also the tragedy that happened that day. That still resonates all these years later, and I think always will with us. And we have a presidential debate the day before where now we've got, which we know we've had a country over the last 12, 15 years and maybe even further that is deeply divided in its political rhetoric and landscape and everything else. And we're doing like the post game on that on Wednesday morning, 9/11, instead of unity, country, remembrance. Like it's kind of, feels kind of dirty to me. It's almost like, I just tweeted, our political landscape needs a better PR team. And this isn't one side or the other. This is all. Like, who decided that last night was a good night to do a debate right before 9/11? And I did just see and I guess this is a good sign. I just saw a lot of our political leaders all at a ceremony for 9/11 together, shaking hands and those, which is good. Like, that's a good thing. Yeah. But I don't know, man. It just kind of hit me different this morning. I don't know if you thought about it like that or not. And again, we don't do this on our show, but I don't know. I kind of wanted to say that today.
No, I mean, I think it's justified to say that, Brent, because obviously it was such. I mean, we all remember where we were, and it's wild. And I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but it almost seems so long ago. Because I remember like when it happened, I remember where I was, and then I remember like kind of like how the country seemed to rally after it and kind of be on the same page. And I've shared this before on the old show and everything, but like if you look at like the next like our younger generations and like say what you want about the upbringing, but like I feel like a lot of that changed that day because all of a sudden parents started holding their kids a little tighter. Right. All of a sudden, parents started worrying about their kids a little more. And because you didn't have technology yet to kind of take that burden a little bit. It was, parents still being very, around in their child's lives and everything. But it seemed like we were all united. And once again, I say that it seems so long ago because now I look at, and last night's a classic example of a presidential debate. And yeah, you had two sides going back and forth, right? And I don't know, man. It's weird to compare because it almost feels like now we might be more divided than ever, which is kind of a bad thing to say, especially on today. But it was such just a tragic event, and I don't believe in silver linings with those things because so many people lost their lives, so many families were affected, but. We did kind of rally together as a country. We all kind of came together, and despite our differences, despite our upbringings, despite our belief systems, it did kind of unite us, if you will. And then all of a sudden, it seems like, years later now, we're reflecting back on it as like, well, what happened? What happened to everyone kind of being on the same page, being united, having love for this country. And it's almost bittersweet because like you remember how our country kind of rallied and you remember those thoughts and you take pride in that, Brent. But at the same time, you look back on it now, it's like, man, we've come a long way from just feeling united, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I mean, you think of some poignant moments of in the history, again, kind of in my time, I'm 47 years old, so we go back to the late 70s. Some of these I don't even remember. But if you think even starting in 1980, Austin, go to like the U.S. Olympic team, which has something to do with sports. You think about I love hearing my mom and dad tell stories about that time. We obviously love seeing the movie, right? Miracle on Ice and stuff. But you get a good grasp, right, of what was going on. Even though I was 3 years old and obviously don't know. You weren't even born. Many of us weren't. But we kind of get a feel for that time. And then you talk about like unity and everything else. And then, yes, 2001, 9/11, 2000. I mean, it changed so much. And it continues to resonate. Again, it does with me, even though I wasn't in New York. I was in a TV station in Providence, Rhode Island at the time, but it's one of those deals, one of those moments where it's like, exactly the details of where you were and everything else. And I still kind of find it fascinating that even my kids ask questions about it and kind of like I would about 1980 and in a totally different landscape. But so we don't have a lot of those moments, I guess, in our lifetime and in the 9/11 situation, thankfully. But yeah, I just, that unity certainly doesn't feel like it's there if you listen to our political landscape. Now, in your communities and everywhere else, I would probably beg to differ at times, based on what we hear is not always what we're feeling. But anyway, I'm not going to go deeper into it. Listen, I got a lot of political thoughts or other thoughts that I never share on the show. It's not worth it to get into it, and I don't feel strongly enough about our political landscape to even go there. But I did have that feeling last night into this morning. And again, this is more, this has nothing to do with the politics. This has more to do with the remembrance and reverence for everything that embodies that day 23 years ago. And I was like, why are we I didn't feel that last night when I was watching it. It hit me this morning, but somebody who's in that world, that landscape, they didn't think about that? Like, honestly, I didn't even watch the whole debate. I don't even know if the question of 9/11 and security and all those things were even was even brought up in the debate.
It was it was brought up in more of like a rebuttal more than anything. But yeah, like the aftermath of it was brought up because I ended up. I watched the whole thing. I like to be informed, and obviously it was kind of a circus and. I kind of keep my political beliefs to myself. I don't really align with the side. I just align with what I think is right and what I think is wrong. But if I did take something out of that last night, and then we can move on, Brent, it's that if we're talking about Daniel Jones more, because I know you're still pot committed, I'm going to use the Donald Trump playbook if Daniel Jones keeps playing bad. And it's going to get to the point where it's like, Brent, you have to get off the Daniel Jones bandwagon. You have to get off the train, okay? Because the guy hasn't won a game yet. Pick sixes, interceptions. Giants fans are eating their cats and their dogs. Okay, it's getting that bad in New York right now. It's time for a change with Daniel Jones. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah,
please let that be all you're going to say, because if
that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
The debate is interesting because it does become a sporting event. Like in many respects. And if you check out our world of sports and you see all the different memes and everything else coming out of it, and that didn't matter if it was last week or next week or whatever date. That's different than the topic that I'm talking about. But it is amazing how our politics has become, in essence, a sporting event that some take a heck of a lot more serious than others on social media, I would say. There is an interesting question here.
Brent, let me go and ask you this, Brent. One more question about the political debate last night. You said you watched a little bit of it.
I watched the first hour of
it. Snoop Dogg wasn't one of. Yeah, okay. Were you surprised that Snoop Dogg wasn't one of the moderators? Because I feel like the guy's everywhere. Why wouldn't you include him in the presidential debate?
Now we're back. Now we're back. Yeah, we got our serious 6 minutes in, and we're back. I like that. Snoop Dogg, I'm maybe a little surprised.
I'm just saying. Well, I mean, if the dude's carried the torch in France for the Olympics, why wouldn't he be at the presidential debate in the United States? Just saying.
Well, it appears that Taylor Swift, we got a Swift bump on even out of the debate too. So, I mean, where was Travis Kelce? I mean, I don't know how, it's amazing how we can get to all these other figures. But anyway, this is a serious question. Then we'll end with this topic. We'll get back to football. Big Nuke Dog. Good morning, Austin. Mr. Brent, do you see today becoming a holiday recognized like MLK at Labor Day, New Year's? That's a fair question, a really good question. My gut says no, because I think when you say holiday, it feels celebration. Like I know MLK, obviously, there's, that has a lot of different tentacles to it, but it's a celebration of what he represented and how he changed our world and country and everything. And I think if you look at holidays in general, they feel more celebratory. And so in that respect, I would say no. And I also don't think this day needs it. I just don't. I think this day resonates. Like this date. I still say it all the time. Also, when I see the clock say 9/11, that time of day, every day I see that time on a clock resonates with me.
Yeah.
So that's how powerful it is without naming a holiday.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thought, because we do have like Memorial Day, right? And like, while, that's celebrated with our families and, having cookouts and everything, like it's still a holiday that's based in remembrance. And it's still a holiday that's based in, showing respect for the people that sacrificed their lives for our country. So yeah, I mean, Brent, it's such a big event, and like, obviously we do our part to remember that event and to speak on it. I don't know. I don't know if it would warrant a national holiday, but like, once again, if we talk about Memorial Day being one of those, maybe one day 9/11 would, just because I just feel like it's so significant in terms of obviously the loss, but also the ability to rebound then and then kind of unite as a country a little bit.
Yeah. I would be surprised. But again, I don't. We'll see. We'll see if it down the road. I don't think he needs one, because I think this day will always be. I mean, and I don't know if that ever fades. I don't really know. I don't think it does. At least for me personally, it won't. But I don't know if people, like a lot of people are like, I guess I am staying on this for one more second. A lot of people say that my parents are ages, like our parents' age, also would say, the Kennedy assassination is a day, right? Like that. It's just kind of like stops you in your tracks type thing.
Or Pearl Harbor.
If you go all the way back, right? Pearl Harbor. But now we're getting so much a distance away. We don't have.
But we still remember it.
There's less of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do remember it. But I think like you can talk to your parents about potentially John F. Kennedy and that time frame, and even here in 2024. So I think that's kind of what 9/11, 2001 feel for so many of us. Again, in a totally different way, but just that kind of day resonates so profoundly. And it's not like we ever the Kennedy assassination isn't a holiday.
No, and
right.
I mean, Pearl Harbor, we still have Pearl Harbor Day, but it's more of a day of remembrance.
You're right. It's not a true holiday, right? Like on the calendar. So yeah, interesting. All right, let's hard 180 this back to sports, if we will. Thanks for the. I do think it's important to remember, and obviously 9/11, everybody's mind goes back to that. But we talk sports for a living. Take your mind away from that kind of stuff, away from the debate and everything else going on in your world. So let's go back to it. And the Tom Brady in the booth stuff. We've kind of had this on our rundown for a couple of days, and I've got to be honest with you, Austin. I did not see it. Because, of course, we're covering the Dolphins game, and so I don't watch a lot of football that day until I get home, maybe a Sunday night game. I saw some conversation on social media that he wasn't great, and so people didn't like it. So if I would say, if I had the greatest performance based off social media, I would say it didn't go as well as people had hoped that it would go. Is that the sense you get? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's extremely accurate. Now, I will say that I feel like people's expectations were so high from the get-go that he was probably going to set himself up for failure his first go-around, just because like we expected this to be, Tony Romo, but even better. And I don't want to call it awkward or anything, Brent, but like to me, it seemed very vanilla, and he didn't really add a lot. And it's interesting because like, my freshest recollection before I watched, the Cowboys Browns game was the roast of Tom Brady, and he's cracking jokes and everything, and he's laughing, and, he's got his comedic timing down. So I kind of envisioned like, okay, we're essentially getting another Tony Romo in the booth, but a guy with a lot more credentials, a guy with a lot more status, and the GOAT. So I thought like it was going to be too big to fail. And I'm not saying it was a failure by any means. Like, once again, it's his first time, right? It takes a little bit maybe to adjust for some people. But I was really surprised of just how vanilla, just how run-of-the-mill that it sounded.
Yeah, I will just preface this. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I'm not trying to tell you that what we do for a living, talking in front of a microphone, is like the hardest work of all time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you that this job is totally different than what his job is. That is not an easy role. And there's a reason why there's not too many people great at it. Like, you don't have a lot of people that are great. Like, those announced teams that are like really, really strong are very minimal, quite frankly. And even with all the networks and all the games and all the people that would love to do it. So to walk into that and try to do it is, I think, difficult. And by the way, they didn't roll them out in like a bunch of practices. Like, this is kind of like, you go. You might practice behind the scenes a little bit, but it's hard to replicate it in real life, what they were doing in front of millions and millions of people. So this is different than Kendrick Lamar practicing for the Super Bowl. Like, he's done it before a million times, right? So, like, he at least has a feel for what it's like in front of X amount of people, even though that performance will be totally different. So at least he has Brady doesn't have that, and it's not automatic. So I'm going to give him some rope, first of all, because I think he'll get better at it most likely. But I also think there's another element to this. Shouldn't we appreciate Tony Romo for his ability to kind of like right from the jump be able to be pretty damn good at it?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And once again, like I get people, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of the cool thing now to hate on Tony Romo a little bit. Like, he talks too much. He interrupts the plays and everything. I've always been a giant Tony Romo fan. And I've said this many times in the show, Brent, like, to me, the mark of a great commentator, the mark of a great color commentary guy is to basically like you're watching the good game in a bar with somebody. And that's what Tony Romo is. And by the way, you're watching the game in the bar with Tony Romo, and he's super knowledgeable and can call out plays before they happen. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm all in on that. So, yeah, I think it does make you appreciate, a guy like Tony Romo a little bit. And, like, listen, I always felt like, when the Mannings had their Manning cast, like, I thought, like, from the get-go, they hit the ground running, right? Because they've had experience. They did SNL, and they did all this stuff. And, Peyton's done, like, how many commercials? With Brady, like, he always kind of seemed a little more – I mean, he was a product of the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick, right? So we didn't see a lot of personality ever. But he always just kind of seemed a little – I don't want to say robotic because that's kind of an insult, but he always just seemed a little more reserved than a Peyton Manning, than a Tony Romo and everything. And then we saw him in Tampa Bay start to have personality, start to have fun, falling off the boats after too much tequila, doing a roast on Netflix. And it's like, okay, this guy's got some personality to him. This is going to be all right. And I just think in that first showing, it didn't shine through. Not saying that it's not going to shine through. Let him get his reps like anybody else. But I just think we expect Brent, the GOAT, the Mr. Tom Brady to come in. Whatever he does, he's going to kill it. And that wasn't the case this past Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I'll give him a little bit of rope on it, and we'll see where it ends up. But I think, listen, he better be better. He's getting paid like $37 million a year, so he better. I think he's gonna. I mean, he's getting paid more to do this than he is to play football. So I think
I know. Yeah.
Hopefully he works at it.
Greg Olsen calling Mac games now because of it. So
I know it. That's, and they couldn't see that coming. By the way they did this, and this was a little bit of an arms race, and I'm not sure it's right or wrong. I don't even know if you should be spending this kind of money on these guys. But they obviously did that before he even retired Austin, right, with Brady. And they were like, we're going to get in front of the line, and we're going to be, look what we're going to do. This is a big win for Fox. And so it was gutsy probably to do it. It was expensive to do it. But then what's so weird about it is that Olsen comes in as the bridge guy and is awesome. Like, by everybody's account, he's really good. You know what it reminds you of? Reminds you of, or me of like, who's the guy? Who's the guy that the Seattle Seahawks signed? Flynn from Green Bay?
Oh,
no, not
Flynn.
Flynn.
Yeah, okay.
Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
So they signed him to a decent contract, right? It wasn't a Brady contract, but they got him in free agency. And I remember they signed him to a decent contract. Well, then they get Russell Wilson in the draft. They never played Flynn. So it was like, should Fox have made the move to be like, oh no, we're keeping Olsen as the guy, but we're going to eat the 337 or whatever it is over 10 years for Brady. It kind of reminds you of that. It's like they got Wally pipped him. Olsen's probably better, but it's still more romantic and everything else to have Brady. And here's the other thing Fox didn't see coming is the fact that he can't even go to practices or production meetings or anything else because of his affiliation with the Raiders. So that wasn't part of the deal. I almost wonder if there's an out in his deal because of that. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I remember reading the stipulations. He can't be critical of the rep. There's a bunch of Tom Brady stipulations that he can't do during the broadcast because of his ties to the Raiders or whatever. So yeah, well, once again, Brent, I think you're going to see him get better. How's he not? At the end of the day, it's Tom frickin' Brady, right? He's gonna do his thing. He's gonna get his reps in. And he's gonna get better. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will too. Hey, a couple things coming out of this Jags-Browns game I want your reaction to. David Njoku will not play in the football game. Stefanski just ruled him out, so pretty big deal. He was a killer in that game a year ago, Austin.
That's big. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, if you watch that Cowboys game, they try to use him early and often. But when you have Deshaun Watson throwing the ball, a lot of guys aren't going to get their shine at the receiving and tight end position. But yeah, he's definitely he can be a mismatch nightmare. He's a big dude, athletic. They're really going to miss him against the Jaguars for sure.
Meanwhile, Doug Peterson, much different in today's news conference compared to Monday that we broke down for a couple of days. He's pretty calm, cool, and collected. I didn't see any, at least that I've seen yet. I haven't seen a whole transcript, but I didn't see anything crazy coming out of there like we got on Monday. Trevor Lawrence currently at the podium. Marcel Robinson is there for us with Action Sports Jacks. A couple of quotes I'm seeing from Trevor about Brian Thomas Jr. He said he kind of liked him talking to Ramsey after, but he said the cool thing about him is no moment's too big for him. He's a gamer, doesn't seem like a rookie. Pretty similar to what Trevor told me on the sideline preseason game number 3. He loves the fact that when the lights go on, Brian Thomas Jr. turns it on even more. And you never really know that until you see it. So that's a nice sign as he continues to get a lot of props around the league for his debut. Hopefully it continues for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Marcel tweeting Trevor and Mitch Moore said communication was awesome. Mitch is leading the group there. He's communicated very well, did a great job, very decisive about what he wanted to do. So just some of the things coming out of Jags headquarters. Then there's this in the Deshaun Watson, because I guess we got to cover the Deshaun Watson story a little bit closer than we normally would with Watson coming to town this week. And I think this is a situation where we're watching it in Jacksonville please don't mess up anything in the next few days, Watson, to the point where you can't play on Sunday, Austin.
No, absolutely. Like I would much rather see Deshaun Watson right now than Jameis Winston, right? So I'm definitely with you on that. Um, and yeah, once again, some serious allegations from Deshaun Watson. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Like at this point with him, because there's a lot of allegations in the past, and somehow he managed to circumnavigate all those. So I'm not sure this is going to be another prime example of him being able to do that. Do they settle out? Does it go to court? I really don't know what goes into it, but I would expect Deshaun Watson to be the quarterback this Sunday. Brent, let me ask you something because you brought up Brian Thomas Jr. and
Hey,
no
let me
moment's
just
too big for him. And,
let me stop you real quick 1 second. I just want to read. This is new in just a couple minutes ago from Deshaun Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin, on that case that has been filed, which came out like Sunday, Monday. On top of him not playing well and Cleveland losing, it's Deshaun strongly denies the allegations in the lawsuit filed Monday. We've asked him to not comment further while the matter works its way through the courts. Comfortable he will ultimately be vindicated. We'll be ready to defend the case in court. In the meantime, Deshaun's going to focus his energy concentration on football. So that is the latest on that front. And yeah, Z Fortner says Njoku out. We mentioned that. That just came down from the Browns and Stefanski as well. So pretty big deal. All right, back to Brian Thomas Jr. What do you have?
Yeah, what I'm going to ask you quick, because we all kind of agree, too, like we expect this to be the Christian Kirk bounce-back game as well. Now, Cleveland, is a pretty solid defense, or at least traditionally they have been. It's been their identity. It's been their calling card. What would you enjoy seeing more in this Jaguars-Browns game coming up? Do you want to see the Christian Kirk bounce-back game where it's like, okay, there's Christian Kirk. That's the guy that we've been waiting on a little bit. Like let's go and call it 7 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown? Or would you rather see Brian Thomas Jr. continue to do his thing and have another big game, a big game and everything, and kind of cement himself as, is this guy going to be the best rookie wide receiver out of this class?
Ooh, that's a good one, man. I like that.
Yeah. Because to be fair, it's hard to foresee both things happening.
Yeah,
right?
Both aren't happening.
Maybe it does. Maybe the Jaguars offense comes out and they blow doors off. But if you had to pick one, what are you picking?
I'm probably picking Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay.
I think, man, that's a really good question. That's really hard. And here's why I say but I gave you my answer. I think here's why I think Brian Thomas Jr. Because, first of all, I believe you can play one game and that doesn't tell the story. Anton Harrison had a bad game. I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
Devin Lloyd had a good game. I think he needs to stack them. Hank Bigsby, I said this going back to the preseason on Bigsby. He needs to have good moments in practice. He needs to have good moments in preseason. He needs to stack them. Guess what? He stacks them. He had good preseason. He had good preseason games. He had a good game in the opener. You want that to keep happening to the point where once you do have a bad moment, because guess what? It's the NFL and you will, that you're okay to come back like Etienne did, catch the ball the next play and it's out of sight, out of mind. So I think we're getting there with Bigsby. We need to get there with Lloyd. He needs to stack good games so we don't have this up and down play because he's had good games in the past. In fact, he started his first 6, 7, 8 games. His numbers were crazy in terms of turnovers and stuff. So I do think Brian Thomas Jr., who, by the way, has all the confidence in the world, I like the idea of him stacking games early to have all the talk of what we have where he's one of the top guys and he did this and he's dangerous and he's a game changer, because that is what the Jags need. And so I think that is important right now. And I think Kirk has enough history where even if he doesn't have that game, Austin, he will have that game down the road at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, listen, you can make arguments for both sides, right? Like one side, you have Trevor Lawrence's favorite target, get him some confidence, let him rebound. That's going to be good for the offense going forward. But at the other side, you have Brian Thomas Jr., who is this young guy who hopefully is going to be here for a long time to come, who represents the future of this franchise. And I think, we know Christian Kirk's going to get you, right? And, maybe against the Dolphins, it was a one-off. Maybe he stays a little quiet, whatever the reason. But if you can get Brian Thomas Jr. going again and you showcase him being the true one receiver that this team has been so desperately looking for the past couple of years. I just think game planning wise, it's going to do a lot more for you, because now all of a sudden defensive coordinators got to go, whoa, we know they had Christian Kirk. We know they have Evan Ingram. They have Travis Etienne, but now we got to stop Brian Thomas Jr. as well. Like, I just think that narrative is going to be such a better perception for this Jaguar offense if they can keep on getting the best out of Brian Thomas Jr.
Well, and I thought somebody say this on social media the other day, I think, and I agree with it. When is the last, well, and actually I think there is an example of this, and this is why maybe the answer to your question is BTJ here. When's the last time you came out of a game and you're like, damn, they got that right. They got that pick right.
Yeah.
Like one game, right? And we wanted that feeling a little bit in the first 4 days of camp, and we didn't get it. But we got it in 2 quarters of play against the Miami Dolphins. Now, this is why I think this is important, and this I'm adding to my case, because we did get that recently, Austin. When Travon Walker played against Washington, and G. Fortner just brought it up, he had a monster game. He had an interception, a sack, I forget what else, but I think he might have had a sack and a half and interception. It's like, holy cow, you got the right one. And then
Here we go.
It wasn't bad. It just never hit the level that you got excited about in that opening year. And now we're patient, and we've had to be patient, but it looks like he's the guy that actually showed up in game 1. So I do think if you go back to some conversations we've had over the last few weeks and few months, if you take a player like Brian Thomas Jr. at the receiver position, and he comes out of the gate strong in his rookie year, and especially this first month, and then starts stacking them and builds confidence, and then you go out and you put up a 1,000-yard season because of it, because, whoa, he's really good, and 8 touchdowns. Now you start getting into that, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson world, where you're like, damn, this guy's really good. Or it's okay, by the way. It doesn't mean he's going to be bad. There's a CD Lamb world, too, that exists, where CD didn't do that right off the jump, but by year 3 and 4, he got to it, where now you're paying him $130 million. So, yeah, I think it's a really, really good question. I'm going to keep talking about it because I got one other point. I believe if this team is going to go where it needs to go, Ingram and Kirk have to be a big part of this thing. The problem on Sunday was they weren't. They weren't a big enough part. It was great to see the additions of Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis pay dividends. And also great to see Tank Bigsby do his thing. But this team is not going to do its thing if Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram aren't a big part of it. And that's really my Bold City Heating and Air hot take. And thanks for helping me get there.
No problem, man. Have to check.
So a great question, man. I think that's a loaded question. And in a lot of ways to go. Now, it doesn't listen, if Brian Thomas has 4 catches for 40 yards and he's not talking to a defender and all these other things, that's okay too. Because I think we have evidence, the CD Lambs and the Travon Walkers, that, hey, don't panic. It's okay. It's going to be the ups and downs of it. But I do think what you said is that's why I think if you're here on the chat listening, if you're listening to the show right now, if you pick, hey, I actually think Kirk or Ingram, those guys having a big day, and Etienne getting back on the train is a bigger thing, I can buy that. I can buy that because they need them. They need those guys, Austin.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, I know you got to run, but just in a minute, because we put it in the thing, Colorado, the Deion Sanders stuff. Have we ever talked about a team that's bad this much?
No, I really don't think so. And listen, this was highlighted of it. If you haven't seen Terrence Knighton do the Shadir Sanders celebration, by all means, as long as you're not driving, go on Twitter and check it out, because it gave me a nice chuckle this morning. I feel like we haven't seen a team like this because I remember like back, obviously like the U and the Miami Hurricanes, and they're kind of like the bad boys. But guess what? They're winning national championships. They had how many first rounders year in and year out? So to me, it's not even comparable. It's just, it's weird for a couple different reasons, Brent. We live in a landscape of sports now where people are very in tuned to what gets the clicks, to what gets the retweets, to what gets the likes. And anytime you put a story about Deion Sanders or Shadir Sanders or just the Colorado Buffaloes in general, that's going to get you clicks. Because they are essentially the Floyd Mayweathers now of college football. People either want to see them succeed because they're exciting, they have this swag, Deion just looks different, it's presented different, or, and I think this is more of a majority here, people want to see them fail. And people want to tune in to watch them lose. People want to watch other teams do the Shadir Sanders watch celebration. They want to watch the young man experience adversity and be like, just because your dad's Deion Sanders doesn't make you the best college football player, going right now. So I just think it's a perfect storm of, you have such a big personality in Deion Sanders. You have big time names, like his son playing quarterback. And then you couple that with how it's covered and how it's presented. I can't think of another team like it, Brent, ever in the history of college football.
Not in college football. The only thing that comes to mind for me in sports is the Knicks. Like, the Knicks get like covered because it's New York, right? And you're going to cover it like that. But they were awful for like 20 years. So from a quality of play standpoint, they were just brutal. And my guess is if you're in New York, they actually lowered the coverage of it because they were so bad at some point. But the Knicks are always going to be an attention getter. But this one's so different because it's not like Colorado was talked about before. It was one thing if it was like Alabama had been talked about for the last 10 or 15 years. But it was talked about Colorado in 20-something years. And so to that, you give Deion a lot of credit. But sooner or later, you got to be a good football team. And they're just not good. They're really just not a good football team. But they are fascinating, and I can't deny that either. I feel like we've talked about Deion in Colorado more than any other college program on this show over the last 6 months, and maybe even going back the last couple of years. So we're guilty of it as well. And so that, you got to give him credit. It's kind of fascinating. All right, get out of here. You got to get a workout in, and have a good day. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Sounds good, Brent. I think we'll be talking to you from the Palms Casino tomorrow. So we'll see you guys there.
All right, maybe the Wi-Fi is good that we can see your face, that beard, see how it's looking.
Let's go, man. Let's do it.
All right, I'll be at Best Bet St. Augustine tomorrow as well, so we're both on the road. Have a good day, Austin Lane. That will do it for him. We got to get to a break. Got to pay the bills around here. Let's do it. We will come back and talk a little more football, catch up on what else Trevor Lawrence is saying, hear from Antonio Johnson, maybe even hear from a couple other guys. If you didn't get the chance to hear Mitch Morse, I think it's worth listening to again. I thought he was really good coming off that game on Sunday, right after the game. And I think Trevor echoed some of that today and with his comments. Friday Night Zone Blitz is back, 8 o'clock on Friday. We're really having a lot of fun with this show. If you like high school football, you're an alum to a school around here, check it out. Or if you just like the business a little bit, we're doing something different that I don't think many people are doing around the country. You can watch it on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network with our Jaguars Prep Whataburger Friday Night Blitz coverage. And it starts 8 o'clock, goes till midnight on Friday. And make sure you get to the Action Sports Jax Twitter page. You have until 10:30 tonight to vote on one of the games that you want to see live look-ins from in that 8 to 10 o'clock hour on this new Friday Night Zone Blitz. Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave. So feel like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at nimnickbuickgmc.com. And while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnick is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnick. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC. We are professional grade.
It's hard to put a price on comfort, especially when you use that comfort on a daily basis. But if we're going to put a price on it, how does the lowest price guaranteed sound? Furniture Source is going to have the biggest brands, whether it's Ashley, Casper, or Tempur-Pedic, and once again, it's going to be the guaranteed lowest price in Jacksonville. Right now, my friends at Furniture Source are going to give you the ultimate hookup because all month long, they're making their inventory wholesale price. Check out their markdowns up to 50% off. And remember, since it's Furniture Source, you're getting the guaranteed lowest prices in Florida or your money back. Don't have the cash on you right now? It's no worry. Shop endless options to suit your style and budget and enjoy 36 months off with no interest financing. Why use your money when you can use theirs? Whether it's beds, couches, tables, or chairs, Furniture Source is going to have exactly what you're looking for. Shop the lowest prices in Jacksonville guaranteed. Find the location nearest you at FurnitureSourceJacks.com.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Financing options available with approved credit. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
The friendliest golf course in town, the Golf Club at Southampton. Local golfers have no shortage of options when it comes to picking a course to play here in Northeast Florida year-round. Yet time and time again, I find myself here at the Golf Club at Southampton. Easy to get to off 210 in St. Johns County. It's family-owned and operated and renowned for being one of the area's most player-friendly. That's just one of the reasons we hold the Action Sports Jacks Dream 18 charity golf tournament here each fall. The Mark McCumber design layout is great for all skill levels of golfers, from the guys who bomb it a mile on the range to golfers like me who are just happy to put it in the fairway, which Southampton has very accommodating fairways. And if you need new clubs, come down to the pro shop. They'll fit you up and get you a nice new set like they did for me. For more information on membership or to book a tee time and see for yourself, head over to golfsouthampton.com or call the clubhouse at 904-287-7529. The Golf Club at Southampton. It's the official home of the Action Sports Jacks Dream 18. Make it your home for golf too.
New to town or always been in town, everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martinos get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza, some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're going to love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us, and at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations, Donato's Pizza, every piece is important.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Oh, Fletcher, Atlantic Coast Monday Night Football style the other day. 26-21 turned into a good football game, and the Senators get the win. I believe that gets them to 2-0. Good shooting by Stuart Weber right there, a little NFL film style. And should have number one's name, but it looks like he had a nice game. There's a Stingrays highlight for a turnover. Got high school football coming up again, obviously, on Friday. And it was really cool last Thursday to be able to do the game on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Had some really good numbers on that, so hopefully we'll be doing that again in the future. Stay tuned for more on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Speaking of staying tuned, Monster Jam coming back to Jacksonville. Tickets already on sale, by the way, at Ticketmaster with in 2025, which will be March 8th, by the way, for the stadium show for Monster Jam. Always a big draw. We usually get a driver on or so that will be fun to visit when we get closer to that. But tickets already on sale, again, at Ticketmaster with Monster Jam 2025. Brent Martineau here. Austin Lane had to go work out a little early today as he prepares for that October 19th fight in the UFC. Kim's Corner here as well. We even had an appearance from Nick. It's a Whataburger Wednesday here on the show. So glad to have you along for the ride, and thanks for hanging out. The chat's been really good. You guys have been highly participating here on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's when we know football season is here. A lot of opinions out there to judge now. Trevor Lawrence did talk today. Nothing earth-shattering from him or Doug. The Jags obviously are pretty healthy. Tyson Campbell is out for a bit. We know that. He's an IR candidate, but the Jags haven't decided, says Doug Peterson. And meanwhile, the Trevor Lawrence-led offense of the Jags knows they've got a lot of work to do against the Cleveland Browns. Again, one thing about the Browns, and it said in Hamby's burner account, obviously that product meeting is done. The Browns DBs gave us hell last year. I like this test for BTJ. The Browns defense is good. And you can look at Deshaun Watson, that's going to get headlines. You can look at their offensive line. It's a little ugly at times for the Cleveland Browns. They won't have David Njoku offensively, but this doesn't appear like it was ever going to be a shootout kind of game anyway, because you have potentially a top 3, 4, 5 defense in the National Football League playing against you. That's the task. Again, this comes back to the Jags offense on Sunday here in Jacksonville against the Browns. Now, the defense has to do its thing. The defense can't do what it did last year, which basically gave Joe Flacco and the Browns 3 explosive plays that were inexcusable. 1 okay. 3 where you couldn't even see a defender in the frame. Part of the downfall of Mike Caldwell and the Jags defense. They can't have those kind of things happen. But this is an offensive game again. You've got to get to, what would you say, 20, you got to try to get to 24 points. I mean, I don't care who's playing quarterback. You still have to have like 24 points. It's got to be, okay, I feel good about winning the game. It might be 20. But I think 24 is a safe one. And then you feel pretty good about their offense, 24 points against a pretty good D. And then you got to hope that your defense does the job against an offense right now that looks like it's struggling with Deshaun Watson at the quarterback spot. So just you got to keep this in perspective now. It's the end. The reason they're the only 3-point favorite. Browns might have looked like crap in week 1 overall, but they still have a good defense. And there's not a lot of buy-in on the Jags quite yet, even from Vegas and everywhere else. Because like if the Jags had beaten Miami, if they score that touchdown and they go up 24-7, they win 30-10 like I thought they could or would, what's Vegas make them coming into this game? I mean, are they all of a sudden like a 4.5, 5.5 point favorite? I mean, the Jags were this close to playing like that and getting a lot of respect around the National Football League and even from a place like Vegas potentially. But it didn't happen. So, or is this just a 3-point game because of the respect for the Browns defense, which might be, and maybe rightfully so. Okay, a couple of sound bites or so that we want to get to. Jags Report Live now has switched to String Sports Brewery on Mondays. Working on a guest still for this upcoming Monday, but now you can join us Mondays and Thursdays. Jags Report Live Monday, Jaguars All Access Thursday. Tomorrow it's Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk, if you haven't heard yet. So we're looking forward to that show at String Sports Brewery. Both of these shows are in Springfield for the time being. Eventually, the Monday show will shift to the new Jack's Beach location at Strings, but that might not be until late October, early November. So Monday we had Antonio Johnson out, and here is our conversation, or at least a little bit of it, with the second-year Jaguars safety. How difficult, how real was the speed of the Miami Dolphins on Sunday?
I feel like when you see it on TV, you have one perception of it, but like being in front of it, having it run like at you, it's a whole different ball game. Them guys fast, and we knew that going into the game, but I feel like we handled it pretty well.
I thought you guys played awesome on the defensive side of the football yesterday. As we look at some of the pictures here and pass breakups, you guys were getting after it. You went and you hit. I thought you had a great game plan. They're going to hit a player too. I mean, they're the number one offense in the NFL from last year. But I thought you guys had a terrific performance. What was it like for you to be out on the field, getting all those snaps and participating?
It was fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Playing at safety was different from last year playing in nickel, so it was a different perspective on the field. But overall, I feel like we had, like you said, we had a really good game plan. We was able to really study their film, and I feel like we did really good, even though we didn't get the dub. But I feel like the performance itself was pretty well.
I think it was fun to watch Darnell Savage, and it seems like you guys are going to interchange sometime between nickel and safety. How much did that happen yesterday, and how well did he play as a newcomer in a Jags uniform?
Sal, he played very good. He made plays all throughout the game, in the air, on the ground. Like you said, I feel like our secondary is very versatile, so we come with different packages with different players on the field, a lot of DBs on the field. And I feel like we just take very pride in our defensive room, like having so many guys that can play different positions and give an offense different looks.
They must be great for you to have Savage and Darby and guys who have been through it all in the National Football League on the field. In fact, I was talking with Brent earlier today on the long touchdown play. I thought Darby had a terrific thing. He Cheetah caught the ball. He's breaking down, and Darby kind of shoved Cisco to try to get him to give a little jumping down.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great play, great veteran play, though.
Yeah,
What's it like having those guys on the field and learning from them?
Man, just day in and day out, just learning from, still being a young guy in the league, having those guys in your room, vets like that's like won Super Bowls and know what to do to get to those next levels in their career. Just being able to pick their brain and just, use them as guides. And, we have a lot of young guys in our room too, like Jerry and who else? I'm just say Jerry for now, but Jerry.
Monteric is young.
Monteric. But guys like that, including myself, that really don't have that much experience in the NFL, and we can look to those guys if we have questions, and just use them.
He's a Texas A&M Aggie, and those Aggies are coming to Gainesville this week. We'll ask him a little bit about that when we come back. Antonio Johnson joins us on Jags Report live at String Sports Brewery in Springfield. Stay with us live on Fox 30 and the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. And Cleveland comes to town for the home opener. Well, there's a little bit of our conversation with Antonio Johnson. I like Antonio. I think this is a guy I believe you're going to have to be a bit patient with at times. I mean, he's a fifth-round pick, playing a lot. I think they really like him, but I don't think we should throw all these crazy expectations on him. I think there's going to be some growing pains along the way. I think there was a little bit of that on Sunday. One of my big takeaways from what he said there was, even amidst the disappointment, you get a little bit of a feel on Monday from a player like Antonio, like, hey, listen, we get it. We lost. It sucks. We don't want to lose. But don't sit here and paint this so negative that we didn't do some good things. And I think that's what's coming out of Jags' head. They have to take those good things. That's what was a little bit, Antonio did that better than Doug, quite frankly, on Monday. Doug's news conference did not scream all that kind of mojo, if you will. But I think Antonio did, and I think now, there's enough there to out of the opener to build on if they build on it. Now, that only works if you win. So Antonio Johnson on Jags Report, I'll probably get him back on another time or two. We've got a mix of players that will be shuffling in, again, on Mondays and Thursdays. And Texas A&M does play Florida this coming week, Friday. Jason Hamby is back with Stadium Pulse at 9 a.m. right before our Friday show. And we will talk a little more. That's a college football show, by the way. And Casey has the No Name Show at 10 a.m. until noon on Saturdays on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. That has college football and also some betting lines from the weekend with high attention to that. And another thing on Friday, we're going to have Emmitt Smith, former Florida Gator great, and, of course, NFL Hall of Famer. He will be in studio with us, or at least scheduled to be, on Friday, is Emmitt Smith. So a lot of fun stuff still to come. I bet Mitch Morse would have liked the block for Emmitt Smith. The Jaguars center is one of the newcomers. He's one of the guys that Jags are going to lean on to not only get the running game going, to figure out those short yardage situations, but also to figure out how to bounce back from a game like this where they had it and they didn't get it. And that's why they brought guys like Morse in. I thought Morse, right after the game, and this is some 20 minutes after the game, was really strong about how he handled it. Kind of shows you what kind of guy he is. And if that spreads throughout this team, this no panic kind of mode, I think the Jags will be in good shape this week and going forward. Here's Mitch Morse if you missed him in the locker room.
Well, I thought it was somewhat feast or famine. Not as the offensive line play, although that's usually all I can really speak on. But just as an offense in general, I thought, this game is a game of inches, and you have to look intrinsically on what you individually did to maybe stall a drive and stuff. So that's all. This offensive line room, this offensive room, it's a group of selfless guys, and they point the finger inwards. And that's what good football teams do. Now, it feels terrible to be 0-1. But, what can you do except march on, attack the next work week, be very critical of yourself, but also make it constructive. How can we push this to make it a good week? There were things that we liked that we did on the field. And so continue those and then try to eliminate the things that we don't like so much.
When you see 17 in the first and then none in the second, is that something they adjust to, or you just don't do as well?
I think it's both, right? Like I thought they came out in the second half and made some good in-game adjustments, and then kind of like how we started the first quarter, we just started with three and out, and that puts a lot of stress on the defense. And I thought the defense played a really good game against a hell of an offense, and we have to do more. And that's the frustrating thing. So we'll come out and see what it is. I don't know if it's so much of a mindset thing or as it is just a schematics thing, but it feels pretty crummy to put our defense in that position when they play such a good game.
In that sense, does it feel like a wasted opportunity?
Any loss is a wasted opportunity in the NFL, but we're not going to dwell on it. You can't. If you do, then it's a domino effect.
How much of a gut? I mean, you look like you were going in to put the game away. I mean,
sure.
Just in general, how much of a gut punch is a play like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a great learning experience for all of us, right? Like I could have finished the play and gotten on the ball. Like there's so many things to look at, right? And in this game, although that was a big play, in a game like that, you can't put it on one person exclusively. So we're not going to do that. We're going to point the finger at ourselves individually and then go from there.
I thought it was good stuff from Mitch Morse there, and that last part too. And I wasn't really trying to set him up for anything there and blame him, but the way he said it, it's like, hey, yeah, it's a big play, but we look internally, inward, all those things. That's good leadership stuff. I mean, I think you got the thing about that 2-minute interview with Mitch Morse is you get the sense of why they brought a guy like that in. That's really why I wanted to play it if you hadn't seen it yet, because these are the guys they're going to lean on here the next little bit to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen throughout the season, and it snowballs, like Austin said today, a little chip of ice into a big snowball of the season, which we have seen it in Jacksonville before. And right now they're kind of in one if you don't separate the seasons. I mean, they have lost 6 out of 7 games in the regular season. Like, we were okay with saying they had won whatever it was at the time, right? Like 15 out of 17 or 18, bridging 22-23. So if we're going to be, or 15 out of 20, I think it might have been. So if they had done that, well, then we kind of have to use the same example in some respects when they've lost 6 out of 7. Whataburger Wednesday almost in the books here. We want to also welcome the Jacksonville Icemen on board. They are getting ready to get on the ice, by the way, in October. We're going to do some fun things with the Jacksonville Icemen, have good partnership with them going forward. You're actually going to see some of those games with the Action Sports Jacks brand, so you'll be able to do that on your TV, not here on the stream, but on TV. And then we'll have a lot of fun stuff happening with the Jacksonville Icemen as they get ready to roll on another season in Jacksonville chasing that Kelly Cup. So we're excited about that as well. Jaguars news today. The biggest news, if you're just jumping in, is David Njoku out for this football game against the Jaguars. The tight end who burned the Jaguars a season ago and really had a nice final 6 weeks or so for the Cleveland Browns. He will not play because of an ankle injury. And I guess that's a break for the Jaguars, many would consider, and you probably should, because that's another piece of that offense that can't help out Deshaun Watson. And right now that offense has been struggling mightily. Outside of that, Doug Peterson, a little bit better temperament today. Didn't seem as frustrated and annoyed with everything going on here on a Wednesday. He's turned the page, and Trevor Lawrence and knows that the offense has to get cooking a little bit better than they did on Sunday. But there's a lot of confidence. And the conversation continues to stem around Brian Thomas Jr., how good of a start that was for him. And if you missed any of the show today, you can go back and listen on the podcast. It'll be up there in just a little bit, wherever you listen to your podcast. But we had a lot of conversation about these first rounders. And Brian Thomas Jr., I thought Austin presented such a fun question. Who do you rather see this week have a big day? Brian Thomas Jr. or Christian Kirk? Get back on the train, Christian Kirk, or keep the momentum of what everybody's talking about with Brian Thomas Jr. And I think a lot of the fans be like, oh, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. But don't sleep on the fact that Kirk and Ingram and those guys and Etienne that weren't as good as you want them to be on Sunday need to be a big part of this too. But I actually lean toward Brian Thomas Jr. too. Start stacking the days, and maybe you have a really special player. There are some people that think they could have the best receiver in the class. I have not let my mind wander there on Brian Thomas Jr. I think if he gives us a sample in the first quarter of the year, like, this is really good, I'll let my mind wander there. Because then you could ask, what if? He wasn't a top 10 guy. He was a 23rd overall pick. But if he could play like a top 10 guy, oh, that would be nice. That's going to do it here on a Whataburger Wednesday. Thanks for hanging with us. Hopefully the rain stops. We'll see you on TV tonight, CBS 47 and Fox 30. We'll see you at the bank on Sunday for the home opener against the Cleveland Browns. And I'm heading to the locker room in just a bit, so we'll bring that to you tomorrow. Live from Best Bet St. Augustine, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Have a good day, everybody. It's a new logo, new branding. With Bold City Heating and Air, it's an old school approach. One of the few locally owned and operated air conditioning businesses left in Jacksonville. It's hot, Florida in the summer. You can't do much to avoid it, but you can keep cool with Bold City Heating and Air. It's every customer counts kind of service, from when these trucks have pulled up to my home over the last couple of years and when they pull into your driveway as well. From communication to pricing to the actual service, everyone at Bold City Heating and Air cares about you. You know who's coming to your house. You know they will be well trained, and they will respect your home. Air conditioning convenience at boldcityac.com. Stay cool while it gets hot. Bold City Heating and Air can help. Don't get caught sweating all summer. boldcityac.com, and they have financing to help. New systems starting at $110 a month and $50 off any repairs. Stay safe, stay comfortable with Bold City Heating and Air at boldcityac.com. Homegrown in your hometown.
Building off a summer of terrific action at Southern Oaks Stadium, the Jacksonville Armada are looking forward to the future and the return of pro soccer in Northeast Florida. Season ticket reservations for MLS Next Pro are underway, and for just $100, you can lock in some great benefits when it comes to supporting the boys in blue. Those who make a reservation will have first selection options in the new Armada Stadium out east, near Jacksonville's downtown sporting complex, as well as access to supporter VIP events like stadium tours, open training sessions, and future meet and greets with players and coaches. You can make your season ticket reservations at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket. And while you're there, read the very latest on the Armada men's and women's teams in action this summer. Show your commitment to the fleet with an MLS Next Pro season ticket reservation at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket.
In Northeast Florida, we love hanging out on the back patio, maybe grilling out lunch or dinner with the family, enjoying the good weather, or maybe enjoying the big game on the TV. Or maybe your favorite team in town, the Action Sports Jags team. This is great, except for when it's really hot or the bugs start coming out. But what if you didn't have to worry about that? Titan Outdoor Solutions will make your outdoor area a comfortable spot any time of the day, any time of the year. This makes too much sense. Titan Outdoor Solutions can give your home an upgrade. Customized pergolas, awnings, controlled shade, even retractable screens. The solution to beating the heat and the bugs and getting more use out of your home is Titan Outdoor Solutions. And this can even help prevent storm damage at your home. Living in Florida and living in your home is already good. Now make it great. Quality products, custom work, locally owned and operated. Visit TitanShuttersAndScreens.com or call 904-484-7580.
When I say it means something to me, gentlemen, it means something to me.
High school football is back and it's bigger than ever. Welcome to the Friday Night Zone Blitz.
It is bigger than a game.
Watch the biggest games each week live as the action unfolds with instant reaction and analysis from our Hall of Famer, Kevin Sullivan. It starts with live look-ins at the top matchups, including our Jaguars Prep Whataburger Game of the Week, and that is just the beginning of 4 straight hours of coverage. From 8 to 10:30, the Friday Night Zone Blitz is streaming on our Action News Jax app and online. At 10:30, the Friday Night Blitz you know and love. A half hour of highlights from around the area. 11 o'clock, we shine the spotlight on the bands that pump up the crowd. 11:15, it's time to blitz through the highlights online and on air. Then 11:35, back to the stream to break down the night's results with a reaction from local coaches. 4 straight hours of high school football on the Friday Night Zone Blitz. Only on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access.
Welcome to String Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence.
You can bring your party or event to String Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in